An Odyssey sports station.
92.3 The Fan, 2020 Sports.
Reports say the Browns will be hiring Atlanta Falcons defensive pass game coordinator Mike Rutenberg to be the new defensive coordinator. Rutenberg's going to be taking over for Jim Schwartz, who left the team after being passed over for the head coaching job. Authorities in New York City say Browns safety Ronnie Hickman suffered minor injuries after being assaulted in the lobby of a hotel early Monday morning. According to NYPD, Hickman was approached by 4 people, then Hickman got punched. So far, no arrests have been made in connection to the incident. Guardians going to get their first full squad workout of the spring going today in Goodyear. Skipper Stephen Vogt feels that it's big that the younger players can be very versatile.
We want as much defensive flexibility, versatility as we can. We just don't know how the season's going to shake out. When you have opportunity to get your bat in the lineup more often.
Guardians have Joey Cantillo and Logan Allen be their starting pitchers when Cactus League play begins on Saturday. Guardians doing split squad games, some in Goodyear to take on the Reds, others going to Phoenix to take on the Brewers. At the Winter Olympics women's hockey yesterday, the United States blanked Sweden 5-0. Cleveland's native Layla Edwards, an assist as Team USA posted 5 straight shutouts and now will take on Canada for the gold medal. That game happens on Thursday. Don't miss tonight's episode of 92.3 The Fans off-season special. Get the latest on the Browns this evening from 7 to 9. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next time for the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
The Afternoon Drive.
The idea that Monken would like Deshaun Watson is nothing that seems foreign to anybody that's been paying attention to this.
On one hand, if they could move away, if they could just snap their fingers and Deshaun goes bye-bye and you don't have to have that conversation, do I think they would? Yes. If the salary cap wasn't real and you had another quarterback in place, you had this, that, or the other, I think they would, because it's been a failed experiment. But they don't have options. So why not? It's in their best interest to put this out there. Yeah, he looked great. And of course he's going to have a chance this year, because why would you say anything to the contrary?
Yeah, I'm expecting the next 7 months to be some conversation of I can't believe Deshaun Watson looks as good as he does.
The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
If you were Jimmy Haslam or you were even Andrew Berry, why do I want some guy coming in here and trying to reinvent the wheel with the players I have? I have a bona fide, one of the greatest players to ever play the position as a defensive end. I mean, he's up there in the pantheon of some really historic names up there. He's easily the best defensive player that's ever played for this franchise. I got another guy who's probably the best cornerback since 1999. We can go down the line of these really good players. And Jim Schwartz did a good job with these players. But why do I want some guy coming in here and trying to, I got to put my stamp on things? Well, I'm just afraid you're going to mess it up. I mean, I'll be brutally honest with you. Myles Garrett being moved around to such an extent, give Jim Schwartz a ton of credit. He put a lot of offensive lines in conflict because of that. And it wasn't just him. There were other guys that were able to take advantage. I mean, Grant Delpit. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to see Grant Delpit do some of the delayed blitzes he was able to do, bringing him up as a box safety, and then, hey, we're just going to send him and see what happens. And sure as hell, because you had help in the secondary, he was able to do those things. Like, I want to see more of that. But I don't want to see some guy, and it sounds terrible because that some guy could end up being the next Bill Belichick for all we know, but I just take it as a perception right now. Do I want to see some guy go, I really got to put my stamp on this. I got to make this my defense, my version of Buddy Ryan's defense, my version of Tom Landry's defense. I don't want them to do that. I don't want them to do that.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
We got a new defensive coordinator. Our long national nightmare is over.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
So this is my issue.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa!
Folks, we have assembled a staff. Told ya. Did I not tell you we'd get one? We got one.
You did say we'd get a defensive coordinator.
Somebody was going to be it.
We had an OC. We had a special teams coach.
Look at that.
You had some other position coaches trickling in. Browns did it.
We got ourselves a coaching staff. I'll be dipped.
They did the interviews. They narrowed them down.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Signed on the bottom line. It's over.
Sealed and delivered,
Boom.
if you will.
And that name was Anthony Lima. Say it right now.
Let's get back to the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's.
Mike Rutenberg. Tell me it's Rutenberg.
I
Rutenberg?
wanted Anthony Lima to say the name.
Oh, damn it. Oh, I'm sorry.
For a specific reason.
Are you saying his name wrong?
No.
I didn't hear him say
I haven't
his
even
name.
said it yet.
Because I haven't said it yet because I didn't know it.
Oh, no, I watched some videos yesterday because I'm like, This is you're taking it to the exact place I wanted to take it. Thank you very much. Is if you listen to our show yesterday with two different hosts, with Nick and Daryl, I think Mike Rutenberg got brought up. Say the last name so you know how to say the name. Because at first I did think it was another way.
It's Rutenberg.
Ruth?
What did you say? Rutenberg?
I thought it was Rutenberg.
Rutenberg, yes.
Yeah, there's no H in there.
No. So it's Rutenberg, of course.
Yeah, but either Rutenberg or Rutenberg, which if you say it once the wrong way, then you're running the risk of saying it wrong for the rest of your life.
Yes. For as long as this goes.
The old Deion Waiters to Juan Wagner night that I had when they drafted Deion Waiters years and years and years ago. My God, what a terrible night. Anyway, so they get Mike Rutenberg. Owen took it to the exact place I wanted to. So if you listen to us yesterday with Nick and Daryl, I am told what I did not hear, that they had lambasted this possible hire that they would go out and get. From what I'm told, Daryl was not very positive about the possibility of Mike. It wasn't announced in the morning, I don't believe, but Daryl was not very enthused about the possibility of Mike Rutenberg, right?
Is it because he wanted continuity? He wanted somebody promoted from within so they could continue on their elite status as a defensive team?
And this is where I think we're at, is that I think Daryl, I'm not going to hammer Daryl here because, again, I'm not terribly sure, and I'm sure, one thing I am sure Daryl will walk away from if the guy's good. But I am, it's early. Hopefully he doesn't hear that. Anyway, if it does, what the hell. So, one thing I'm trying to, I think that we're latching on to is that anything that reminds us or anything that goes with the good defense, we want to continue. You can sense, and I tell you what, you guys sit there and some of you guys say, Browns media just wants the Browns to lose. No, you can hear how desperate we are, at least some of us, how desperate we are, and myself included when it came to Jim Schwartz, I'll be honest with you, how desperate we are to keep a good group around because we don't want to mess with something that's doing really, really well. I mean, when you've had a top 5 defense or top 4 defense 2 of the last 3 years, that's a really big thing. We have Myles Garrett winning Defensive Player of the Year. When you have Grant Delpit flourishing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, these are big things for your defense and big things for your football team. And so you know that one side of the football has gone in the right direction. One side of the football has come to fruition. It's the other side is just so god-awful bad that, yeah, you'd be willing to accept any change. So we are I've never seen it like this where you have one team that literally could be a championship game level defense, an AFC championship game level defense, which means that you're one of the best 4 defenses in the league compared to one of the out-and-out worst offenses I think I've ever seen in my entire life. That includes 1999. It is such a weird football team that's there. So I understand naturally. People wanted to keep Jim Schwartz. People wanted to then, if they don't keep Jim Schwartz, then they want to move up guys that might be familiar to the players that you have. Mike Rutenberg is not a guy who's very familiar. So you kind of go in behind the 8 ball. There's been some people who have said some really nice things about him here over the last 24 hours. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. When we've hired other guys, there have been text messages, etc. It's tumbleweeds in the phone. Maybe yesterday because it was a holiday. It's been tumbleweeds in the phone after Mike Rutenberg was hired. But let me tell you this. And maybe you feel differently about it, so I'll give you the floor here in just a second. When they got Bubba Ventrone, everybody lined up about how much of a rock star he was, how this guy's going to be the next John Harbaugh, how the Browns hit a home run here making him assistant head coach, and I thought he was dreadful.
And wait, forget it. You got to remember, too, it wasn't just that. It was, what does this mean for Stefanski? Should he be looking over his shoulder?
Yeah. I thought he was dreadful for the reasons we specified over the last 2 years. Mike Rutenberg does not come with a whole lot of, there's not a whole lot of write-ups on this guy from Rappaport and Pelissero and all the other ones out there. So because you haven't really heard of him, you tend to roll your eyes. Well, I'm going to give a fair shake here like I did, remember the draft with Carson Schlesinger. I watched 6 games of UCLA last year, 2 years ago now. I wasn't watching for any players from UCLA. So, sorry, Carson Schlesinger didn't pop off to me at all and he ends up being the defensive rookie of the year. And I'm glad I said that when they drafted him, going, guys, I'm not going to shoot my mouth off just because I didn't see a whole bunch of them. Because I didn't notice a whole bunch of them. Thank God I made an ass out of myself plenty of other times. Thank God I didn't make an ass out of myself there. So I'm open-minded to Mike Rutenberg. There is another thought that people have, and I want to throw it by you after your initial thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said going into the whole coaching search, was it going to be like in the years past where I would circle one guy and it was going to be life or death? Because I followed so many of these around the NFL, and not just the Browns, that there isn't a huge correlation. There isn't a huge correlation outside of the obvious. Like, yeah, if you could go out and get Sean Payton, you go out and get him. If you could go out at the time and get Jim Harbaugh, I thought you had to get him. Now, John Harbaugh became available. It was pretty evident early that this was not a destination for somebody like him. And so you just have to have Mike Vrabel, obviously. Would have loved to have Mike Vrabel. I think we go over it every day, and if New England continues to be good forever, people are going to go, you let him out of the building. I think we've done our best to separate fact from fiction on whether or not you ever had a chance when you didn't have a quarterback at Mike Vrabel. And I think smart people know the answer to that. I thought you had to be open-minded because there's not a huge correlation in the candidacy for the guys that are looking for jobs. There's not a huge correlation between hot name always and whether or not that guy can do the job. There just isn't. And oftentimes it's guys that haven't done the job ever, and eventually they break through. Remember, every first-time head coach at some point had never coached before. Yeah. And a team and an owner and an organization had to take a leap and hope. For somebody like Todd Monken, you've had to wait longer than almost anybody else. You've got now a head coach who's never coached before. You've got an offensive coordinator who's never been an OC before. You've got a defensive coordinator who's never been a DC before. You got a special teams coach who's never been a special teams. All these guys, you can find tons of good anecdotes, favorable quotes, stuff that gets a little juice, a little energy. It does seem like they have gone almost the opposite from Stefanski and how reserved they were. And that's in every coaching search, in every sport, there's always the overcorrect. You're always going the complete opposite way. These guys have energy. Like, there's no doubt about it. So that won't be a complaint for this coaching staff. Now you just got to hope they're actually good coaches, and it makes sense, and it's a tumultuous time because there's going to be a huge turnover on that offense.
That's another thing that people are bringing up. The other thing is that Keith is texting us saying it is Rutenberg. And I'm like, Keith, I saw 3 videos. I went to 3 different videos. They called him Rutenberg. And he says, nope, it's Rutenberg. I go, okay, well, we're going to have this fight.
Well, I looked it up on the internet, and it said based on the English, German, and general phonetic interpretations, it could be pronounced Rottenberg.
Rottenberg?
Apparently, it's Rutenberg.
We'll find out how good his defense is going to be. Ayo and hayo. Great.
Udunski.
You don't win ski, according to the one guy in the emails. What you just said, I think a lot of people are also, because Ruedsberg hasn't been a DC before. Other guys haven't been their coordinators before. A lot of people are feeling, I'm seeing the sentiment from fans, one and done. Like this is a one and done.
Oh, that everybody could be one and done.
Yes, that everybody could be one and done in that scenario. So I think that when you're 8-26 over the last couple of years, I won't tell those people that they're 100% wrong. I'd like to be open-minded and give them a chance to what they are. Todd Monken was a guy who I think a lot of people were underwhelmed. I don't know if I've ever seen a reaction like that from fans before when they hired Todd Monken. At least I can't remember. Mike Pettin was in the evening, so that was a little bit different. Monken was in the morning. But when Todd Monken gave his initial press conference, I don't think people fell in love with him, but I think they were much more open-minded. I'll be open-minded.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that.
Obviously, to Mike Rutenberg. Just because I haven't heard of him before doesn't mean he's going to be terrible. But I think to a Browns fan, they want to go with who they know. They don't know him.
The defense is tried and true of what they know, and when you put people that they don't know in charge of their defense, they're going to be nervous about.
Well, I'm curious what happens with the assistant coaches. Remember, we thought, hey, if Tarver gets promoted, then you have continuity, all the guys stay, and you just continue on while you're fixing your offense, your defense. You just run it back, and they'll be just as good. Now, I don't know. Like, what are those guys that were on? Like, first of all, how far along is? Stefanski's got his defensive coordinators.
Yeah.
They've got I imagine their position coaches. Jim Schwartz, limbo. Is he going to just not coach this year?
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah,
No,
it doesn't. It doesn't look like right now. I guess where even are all the positions filled now? Are all the defensive
it looks like a
coordinator
lot of positions
filled?
are. Yeah.
So where are these guys going to go? Does this new defensive coordinator does he even want Tarver? I have no idea. They've got to have those meetings.
See, this is what's interesting here, is that how much power does the new defensive coordinator have to assemble whatever staff he has? Also, how much time do you have left to do so?
Right, you're out of time.
Because if you have a complete changeover in guys, and what's also interesting as well is that we seem to be, the Browns ownership and front office seem to be pretty hell-bent on keeping Jim Schwartz in some capacity, whether it be making him the head coach or the defensive coordinator on whoever the next head coach is going to be. Then they go with somebody who's from the outside. So it's interesting because I think a lot of people thought that if they wanted Jim Schwartz to stay so badly and Jim Schwartz isn't staying, that they would possibly bump up Banda or they would bump up Jason Tarver or somebody that they had known previously. That has not happened. So there's going to be a lot of things that have to play out here over the next 24 to 48 hours about what they're going to do with their staff. And if you have more guys that are not going to be a part of this staff, I think the Browns fans are going to start to draw some not too great conclusions because, again, it doesn't mean, because I haven't heard a lot of him, and right now we don't even know how to pronounce his name, it doesn't mean that he's garbage. It just means, though, that you're going into a situation where you don't get the benefit of the doubt because they haven't deserved the benefit of the doubt. It hasn't worked out their way. Anytime we have shown a lot of faith in them, they haven't turned out to make us really smart about that. And I think that that's definitely one of the things of the mistrust of Browns fans with this football team. 216-474-0092. All right, coming up. When it comes to Emmanuel Clase, we shouldn't just have to accept it. But, guys, I don't know any other better alternative. Some wild stuff coming out over the weekend. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live in the Fan. Northeast Factory Direct and NortheastFactoryDirect.com. Nothing wild, no games, no gimmicks, no silliness. Get on over to Northeast Factory.
I just saw him. He came up to me after the game just now. He was like, man, you're a dog, bro. I appreciate you. I said, nah, you a dog. He said, I effing know. So I'm like, yeah, that's him. Like that's the guy. That's what he is, man. He's a guy that cares, you know, and you can see the passion that he has for this game and the love that he has for this team. You know, each and every day, whenever he step on that field, you know, you can tell that this is what he loves to do, and he displays it each and every day.
That's Falcons quarterback Michael Penix Jr. talking about his coach Rudy, which is Mike Rutenberg.
I think we're going to have a standoff.
I heard 3 different videos. And then someone said, he says his own name in this one. Fine, Mike Rutenberg.
There's only one way to find out.
What's that?
Have the guy on.
Yeah, we'll have the guy on.
No, I'd rather
say
keep
your
guessing.
name on record.
Oh, and that's the end of the interview?
See ya. Now get out of here and go figure out how to corral Myles Garrett into a third defensive player.
Go coach that D.
Top 10 defense. I'll say your name right.
10. I need top 5.
Top 5? Top 5's still a pretty tall order. That's
Am I getting greedy?
Defense.
I want top 5.
I think good. I mean, there's always a flux.
So that is true. There's always it's tough to replicate exactly the conditions. And now that Schwartz is gone, we'll find out. Like, look, the whole offseason was about keeping Schwartz, doing everything you could in the head coaching search to make sure, walk that balance of being able to go after a coach, have Jim Schwartz as like a backup plan, and then when he doesn't get the job, keep him. Clearly, I feel like we kind of told everybody how hard that was going to be, and for good reason. Jim Schwartz knew this would be it. This would probably be his last chance to ever be a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he had been appealing to ownership. Who knows how long he had been consulting with the front office when it was kind of clear that Stefanski, there was going to be a separation at the end of the year. I had heard that there had been some consulting going on where they were picking the brain of Jim Schwartz. Remember, Jim Schwartz was defensive coordinator of a Super Bowl team, has been around a long time. Why wouldn't you try to get whatever you could, out of somebody like Jim Schwartz, knowing that, hey, if you didn't hire him as head coach, it was going to be hard to keep him. That was always going to be part of the calculus here.
Yeah, I didn't know he was going to do what he did, because that was going to be very difficult. But again, he's a guy who wanted out of his contract. They're not going to let him out of his contract. We're going to have a very awkward situation play out here. I think with Mike Rutenberg, whatever. I think with this guy, again, I just because I haven't heard of him doesn't mean I think he's going to be garbage. I think that I have to try to keep an open mind to it. But does it go with? Will there be more scrutiny because we don't have Jim Schwartz anymore? Yeah, certainly there will be, because Jim Schwartz has become a guy that most of the fan base trusts over these last 3 years. And I think to a lot of the fan base there is that it was like, all right, we don't have to mess with half the football team. We really have to mess with the other half of the football team. Let's not go goofing around with the one half of the football team. Yeah, well, with the one half of the football team, the guy wanted to be a head coach. You didn't make him the head coach. Now he took his ball and he went home. Regardless of what we want to say, that's exactly what happened. So now you have a new guy that's going to be in charge. Will this guy do a hell of a job? I'm not sure. I am not sure. But because I haven't heard, again, we heard nothing but great things about Bubba Ventrone when he got the job here. And what really sold me the wrong way was when he blamed the roster in his press conferences on Thursdays this last year. When that happened, I was definitely done. And so I'm not going to hear anything. There's guys who come in, they have great pedigree, quote unquote. They have a lot of people who say great things about them. They also have very good agents that load the lips of some of the guys that say great things about them. So you always have to look through something like that. Just because I haven't heard of Mike Rutenberg doesn't mean that I think the guy's going to be terrible. Again, I just try to keep an open mind about it. Trying to keep an open mind about something else here. So another story that came out here over the last couple of days, and it's been going on here over the last few months, and it's going to continue to go on because this has been happening here. What, July is when they have their the trial is set, is in July or something like that when it comes to Emmanuel Clase. So Zach Meisel wrote something on Friday, and this is our first chance that we've got to get to it because this is a big deal here, is that you have a guy who, according to Zach Meisel, Emmanuel Clase is under investigation from unsealed documents at least Game 1 of the Detroit Tigers series in the ALDS that year. All right, Clase is accused of throwing 2 rigged pitches in 2024 including one on October 5th in the 9th inning of the Guardians' Game 1 win against Detroit in the American League Divisional Series. In total, prosecutors had identified 15 times from 2023 through 2025 in which they allege Clase tried to throw pitches to help sports gamblers win their prop bets on him. The feds say they've also found 3 occasions in which he intended to do so, but never got in the game. Now, we know some of the money. We know some of that's there. You have a very common sense approach about it. But I don't know if it's the way that people want it to be. Is that the way you made it sound to me, Tone, is you can never discount stupid. Because everybody to a man asks, wasn't Emmanuel Clase do $10 million? Why is he helping guys win $450,000? Now, I've wondered if there were extenuating circumstances and some very dark ones as well. But I don't think, if we find out something different, fine. But I also don't think you can discount stupidity in so many ways. Because you would do this with a lot of gambling. When you have this involved, you are this person in the community. Why would you involve yourself on some of this? Yeah, well, silliness or even addiction plays into this as well.
That and athletes that get either manipulated or trapped into having to do this because of other things in their life. Because that's what basically the mob used to do. The mob used to exploit people that otherwise would never have done anything bad. Forget not just sports, in any walks of life and politics. I mean, anybody that's watched, they see what they did to the senator and Godfather 2, out west. Like they trap you into a situation. And, I use the term mob, but, you have the cartels. I mean, this is what happens.
Whatever form of organized crime.
Whatever it is that, Emmanuel Clase is not just one day thinking, how can I make an extra $10,000 when you're right, the stakes are so high. So I don't know. We'll find out. Remember, him and his lawyer are claiming complete innocence. We have to put that out there.
Well, obviously.
Every step of the way, they are saying they are innocent of any of these allegations.
But you have asked me this. Do we just have to accept that there's bad actors in every walk of life?
And so this is what I always wondered, because you and I are like the last sports talk radio show duo that I wouldn't say we proudly proclaim, but we just let everybody know we don't gamble. The only gambling I ever do on sports is if I'm in Vegas, and it's very little. It's like a few games just so I can enjoy going to the sports book, and that's it. We have a lot of friends that they do this every day, and they do it to innocent levels, at least that we know of. Nothing they have to hide from their significant others. And full disclosure, I talk about, fanatics all the time, and we give people the recourse to pursue any of this that they might want to do at their own recreation or leisure.
Everything's to be done responsibly.
Yeah. So
I don't fault you for that.
With all of that said, I always assumed that anybody that signs up for these sports books, or anybody that has ever done this with a bookie behind the scenes, I always assumed that they had figured in to some extent that there are some bad actors involved, that there are going to be athletes that are going to be up to no good. The whole point of this getting, out in the open and legalized was that we're going to be able to find those bad actors quicker. And we did in some of the scandals that have happened.
You're right.
That because of the excess of some of the bets, they would trigger whatever safeguards that have been out there, some of the backstops, and then it would rise to the level of being prosecuted, which it has in a lot of cases. Is it ever going to be a perfect system? No. But when you are wagering on a prop bet, you do understand these are humans.
Do people
These are humans.
Yeah, but do people, there's been enough of it. It really hasn't been a whole lot that's been exposed, but there's been enough of it where people wonder. Mm-hmm. And they've always wondered, to the point where there's two things that are wrong with this. One, when it comes to Emmanuel Clase, he's pitching for the Guardians at the time. So, yeah, obviously I'm pretty annoyed that he becomes one of the greatest sports villains of all time if this all becomes true in this city. Second to basically only Art Modell. You could give me Jose Mesa. Jose Mesa was trying. Other guys that were trying, it seemed, to win. Maybe we'll find out more about Jose Mesa, but it seems that he was trying to win. When it comes to Emmanuel Clase, that's the first and foremost thing to a person in Cleveland. We're in Cleveland. The second thing is guys, I get annoyed. I get annoyed by it's all rigged people on social media. I get annoyed by it's all rigged callers who call in. I get very annoyed by that because I know that it's not. But there's been plenty out there that would people tell you that, oh, no, it's absolutely rigged and that's it. You have to protect the integrity of the game. And now that you are an official partner here, it's one thing when you weren't official gambling partners with Vegas and it was a different time. It's one thing with Pete Rose. I don't know how you go further than a lifetime ban. You have to find a way to go further than lifetime bans on this because when you're an official partner, you have to make it abundantly clear.
I feel like they are doing that.
You cannot stop people from being bad actors in this. You cannot stop people from being silly about these matters. Because to a lot of people, it's like you're making $10 million a year. Why would you ever entertain something like that? You can't help the human condition. And the human condition is to make bad decisions. What you can do is prove to everybody that you're doing everything you can to suss it out, to get some sort of credibility on that end. When it came to like the Alabama pitching scandal or the Alabama coach scandal a couple years ago, like, hey, that was some wild stuff that they were able to uncover there.
But it was flagged immediately,
and it's the same thing with a guy like Emmanuel Clase, because I'll tell you what, I watched almost every single one of them games. I never noticed a difference. Well, I thought one just got away from him. I mean, these are experts that are doing it. Do you think that people need to accept that there's going to be bad actors in this?
I assume they already thought that when they took their first deposit or whatever.
You think average Joe guy just thinks that, because I think you're giving people a lot of credit.
216-474-0092. That's the exact thought I had. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, Joe Varden from The Athletic on if the Cavs have that inside track to the number one seed in the East after the All-Star break on The Fan.
I drive a Ram.
with an exhilarating journey tailored for you. Experience state-of-the-art gaming, world-class dining, live harness racing, and see the biggest stars in our concert-style music hall. Find your fun at MGM Northfield Park. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Catch the Fan Offseason Special every Tuesday from 7 till 9 p.m. right here and on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
$7:45, folks. It's the exact opposite of, do you believe in miracles? Yes! I didn't even notice it on Sunday. Lima noticed it, and it's in Lima Likes at 7:45. Also, Joe Varn going to join us at 8 o'clock from The Athletic. I don't want to just accept that there's bad actors in it, because Owen had a hell of a point right after what you had said right to the break. 216-474-0092. Is this just something we should accept? I don't think it's something we should accept, because when you start to accept it, then you start to think everybody's done it on purpose. You know, that's my issue. But I don't want to. I'm not trying to stick my head in the sand and say that these things don't happen. No, they've happened for years. They've happened for generations, multiple generations, dating back to what we know from 1919. And I'm sure there's guys like Dan Okrent and other historians who could tell us even further when it comes to the sport of baseball. But it happened in 1919. It happened with the Boston College Eagles years ago. It's happening in college sports a lot, mostly because they organized crime could be merchants of fear. They prey on those who might be taken in by threats, don't make a lot of money, the possibilities of fast cash. I don't know what some of the reasoning why because of Emmanuel Clase. Like, there were certainly things that we kind of thought about that were definitely ugly, threatening, things like that to Emmanuel Clase, Luis Ortiz, their families, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're throwing bad pitches on purpose in postseason games, one, because we're one of the fan bases that are involved, it's ugly because you haven't won a World Series in over 75 years. The other part of it is that obviously it takes away from the integrity of the game, the part that Major League Baseball has to protect no matter what, that all sports entities have to protect. They had to protect before they became business partners with gambling sites, and they certainly have to do it now that they are official partners with them.
I think that's the important thing for everybody. But Owen, you said we went to break, and you're like, you think everybody understands, or everybody thinks that all sports are completely on the up and up?
I think you said something to the effect of, if you're gambling, you got to know that this is a possibility, right?
Yeah.
That's the.
You're hoping that it's a very fractional possibility.
I think you're giving people that, especially with the accessibility to gambling now, I think you're giving people a lot of credit for thinking things through. I don't think people think a lot of this stuff through when they go and place a $10 bet because it's on an app on their phone. And it's a dangerous thing for a lot of people, right? And then when they find out that things like this is happening, I'm sure they probably chalk up their bad luck to, well, it's got to be everybody doing this. I mean, I lost because, X guy turfed one into the ground, or this guy swung at a pitch that was clearly outside the zone. Well, there's a lot of things that we can't control ourselves, but I think to give the majority of the country credit for thinking things through we would be in a much different place as a society if we did that.
Yeah, maybe, Owen, I guess, like with the Terry Rozier stuff and the end of game sequences that we have seen in the NBA, and so you could, of course, play it out to college or whatever, but the NBA is the one a little more magnified. When you're seeing guys try really hard at the end of a game, people in the stands are like, oh, this must impact the betting in one way or another. Like, those are bets that when you place them, I just can't fathom doing anything but recreational bets on that.
And I feel like, as a guy who goes to a lot of games, spends a lot of money over there, right? I'm gambling every time I go in there with just my personal checkbook, but at least I'm enjoying my time, right? So I'm not looking to make a buck on the thing. There are people that are treating this as a form of income that maybe is not their main form of income, but maybe a way to get themselves out of a place that they're in life that they want to change. And to depend on anyone else for that.
You and I would warn against such a thing. Not that, hey, we've all been in arrears.
It took a lot of living, though, to get to that point.
We've all been in arrears a time or two, but if we think we're going to be professional gamblers on our way out of it, I don't know if those folks are really listening to this. I think that's a level of desperation I hope to never actually to be a part of. I mean, that's Chevy Chase in Vegas Vacation right there, brother. Like that's.
We also don't buy lotto tickets every day, but I see the same people buying the same lotto ticket every time, and they continue to buy that. And it's not because they won last time; it's because they haven't won.
But for them, you're right about that. For them, it is about. I think that for baseball, for all professional sports, there has to be vigilance here because it's not Emmanuel Clase was the only one doing it. Let's call it what it is. Emmanuel Clase is the only one who's technically, quote unquote, being caught in some sort of a scheme. Guarantee it. Now, we don't know whether or not that's actually going to end up being true again. He'll have his day in court coming up in the summer. But I would be silly to try to tell people that it doesn't happen all the time. What I think that needs to be done, or what needs to continue to be done in certain cases, that you need to make it abundantly clear, if you're any one of these sports entities, that you're doing everything you can to suss out anybody who might be bad actors in this whatsoever.
But
because
aren't they doing that?
Do
you not feel like they are doing that?
I don't know if they're doing it enough to be public about it.
I mean,
I really don't.
The fact that this stuff gets flagged quite literally at the betting window.
I understand, but I think it's a lot of things that they don't want to talk about, so they're going to try to keep it on the down low. And to me, I'd be looking at it going, no. Look at our systems here. Because I'm supposed to watch these games, and I watch these games. I watched more Guardians games over the last 3 years than I had in the previous 35 going up to, and that includes the Indians of the 90s, for crying out loud. I watched more baseball over the last 3 years than I have over that time, in any season, I should say. And I watched Emmanuel Clase. I didn't know the difference. Nobody was texting me. Baseball people that I know, nobody was texting me about it. Nobody had known it. And so that's one of the things, is that we have our systems in place to suss this out, to find out some of the bad people that might be, alleged bad people that might be involved in it, and are taking that away to make sure that your sport has the integrity that you demand, to make sure that if you do decide to place a wager with Gambling House XYZ, that's an official partner in Major League Baseball, that you know you're getting it on the very up and up. Like, that's the thing. I really do think they should try to promote it better. Because I think it's conversations that they don't want to have. I think it's an ugliness that they don't want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they want to because they're business partners. I think that it should be highlighted going, hey, we've had problems in pro sports for 100 years. Sure. You might as well put the spotlight on and say what you're doing right.
Do you guys see a difference between, like, the NBA guys either trying really hard at the end of a quarter or pretending to stub a toe, and I'm going to go off to the bench and just never be heard from again in this game for a prop bet, to alter the outcome of that and literally throwing a game? Because we haven't really seen allegations of throwing games yet. And Emmanuel Clase, this is where you get into the thick of, hey, if he's doing this in a playoff game and he's throwing a pitch as opposed to, an entire game, do you see a difference? Or do you think one leads to the next?
I think
that if Emmanuel Clase is willing to throw a pitch, then therefore he might have thrown a game.
There is a difference, but I think that when it opens it up, it's the same thing you've brought up with Pete Rose. Because you said well, of course he bet on his own team. Well, you're not going to bet on your own team. First you didn't do it, then you said you never bet on your own team. Really, you didn't bet on your own team. It kind of stands to reason with Emmanuel Clase. Well, you weren't doing it in postseason games. Then you were doing it in postseason games. How far does it go?
It was just a pitch, or was it multiple pitches?
Exactly.
Or did you get behind a batter all of a sudden?
So I want to say, does it matter at the beginning of a ninth inning if he throws one into the dirt against Detroit or something like that? I'd like to say no. But then again, am I going to stick my neck out there for somebody I've never met, somebody who right now I do not trust, that no, everything else is on the up and up, that's only as far as they went, that's only as far as I think maybe Emmanuel Clase went? Absolutely not.
Yeah, because think about
absolutely not.
When when I was young, it was just, here are the numbers for each NFL game. You bet on either who wins the game by the spread or the total of points. And now you can bet just as much on that as you can what random bench player is going to do in the second half of a basketball game.
Some people think you know who, and I think you know what I'm going to say. You know who is already packing his boxes, getting ready for a third stint in Cleveland. Well, Joe Varden, NBA writer for The Athletic, going to be talking about wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know who, and the possibilities of him coming back next year. And speaking of absolutes, I owe the NBA absolutely nothing. because they haven't done their job well enough yet. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, that and 5 on the Fan.
XTEND.
want to go lock myself in somewhere now and then be unable to go anywhere else next year? Or do I want to give myself the flexibility of waiting a year and then being kind of the most desirable defensive coordinator out there?
Listen for the MMQB's Albert Breer, Tuesdays at 5:20 on Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
Coming up at 8 o'clock, Joe Vardon going to join us on the show. The Cavs have the inside track to that number 1 seed in the East, and we're hearing, and maybe Joe's hearing as well, some very upset Celtics fans, some very upset Knicks fans. We'll get to that coming up at 8 o'clock with Joe Vardon on the show. 216-474-0092. And coming up at 7:22, we might not have as much competition from Malik Willis that we thought. I didn't watch a damn second of it. That's not my fault. That's the NBA's fault. Let's have it. Let's do it. Should the All-Star game go away? Is the question. I know that they had more viewers. I heard Linnell Willingham before the show saying that should people be apologizing to the NBA? And I go, I don't know them a damn thing. I don't know an apology to the NBA. Everybody says they don't like it. And if I'm not going to go find it on purpose, now can I just say this for my own defense? We had people over for the 500. My godson and his family were over. The Dale Earnhardt cake went very well, by the way. It went over very well at the house.
I saw that cake.
Yeah, it was a great cake.
Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you very much. I heard Linnell Willingham saying that that people need to apologize, or should people need to apologize to the NBA over a great All-Star weekend and all that stuff. I go, I didn't see a damn second of it. We had people over for the 500, and because, I don't know, have you guys ever noticed, if you have people and they're like staying over, you watch the sports, and then once they let you like watch the sports, like that's the end of your watching the sports. You're going to have to watch something else with everybody. And it became like figure skating and God knows what. I don't know. I was kind of looking at my phone.
Figure skating?
I was kind of.
Sportskin?
I was looking. Well, you know what I mean.
What are you
Things that
trying
I'm
to
not
say?
Interested in. I'm interested in the NBA. I'm not interested in the. I don't care. I'm not interested in figure skating. I'm sorry to the 6 people who listen that love figure skating. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Oh, gosh, I can't believe it. No, I'm not going to sit here and act like I like what I like. You guys don't like NASCAR. I don't force feed that down your throat, except for Lima likes at 7:45.
What would Brian
and that's
Boitano
only what Lima
do?
wants. I'll tell you what Brian Boitano do if he were here today.
I saw Scott Hamilton on a couch yesterday.
Do you know about the Brian Boitano song from?
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't look at it. I was like, is he lost on that? Okay. It was just things I didn't care about. And I forget what they put on.
Well,
what the hell did they put
hold
on
Saturday
TV?
night?
It wasn't the NBA All-Star game.
Saturday night, we cozied up at a bar on the west side for Valentine's Day.
Right.
If you didn't make a reservation,
Oh, yeah. You weren't getting in.
You weren't getting in, but we were able to do it. And I'm like, all right, when we get home, Sarah's like, well, what do we watch when we get home? I'm like, I at least have to see the 3-point contest and a little bit of the dunk. Meanwhile, while we were sitting at the bar, it was on. And I'm like, wait a second. What is this? Is this from last year? No, that doesn't make any sense. No, they moved it up because it happened to be the rights this year were on, NBC. And NBC had the Olympics. So because of that, they had to bump up all the NBA stuff like 3 or 4 hours.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people got home expecting to see All-Star Saturday night, and they didn't see anything except the Olympics.
And I know I'm talking tough a little bit here, okay? I understand that. I don't think that it should go away or it should change. I don't think that those things should happen because, again, if you had – now I'm sure a little bit of a bump was given because of the Olympics, but you went from 2 million to 6 million or whatever it was of the people that are watching. I think that's a huge –
8.8 million viewers on multiple networks. Many? They add up everything now, so –
Peacock and all that.
Holy sheboygan.
And obviously, had the lead in. People were making sure to clarify, obviously the Olympics helped them.
Okay, even so, that's still a nice number for anybody.
The fact that it wasn't on cable necessarily.
Okay.
It was on
network television.
Yeah, so it should go up. You'd hope it would go up.
So if you have that, I thought it was over 6. I didn't realize it was 7. My God, that's
at
huge.
10.
That's huge.
Peaked at 10.
Oh, that's huge. And I wasn't one of them.
It's not going anywhere.
But that's a good thing where you're considering. I don't think that they need to change anything or get rid of it. I'm just pointing out that it wasn't enough for me to stop everybody else in the room and say that we had to click in and we had to watch it.
No,
is all
I
I'm
understand.
pointing out.
I don't think you have to make an apology for it. It's up to the NBA to put something together.
Oh, so you agree with me?
It's up. Look, the NBA.
I thought I was going to get accused of not doing my job.
The NBA All-Star Game has precipitously gone downhill. The guys at least used to try when it was East versus West. The guys would try if it was a close game in the final 5 minutes, and that was awesome. And I was okay with that. It's the All-Star Game. I'm not a kid anymore. Like, I don't need to be dialed in from tip-off. Like, I would always have it on in the background, and then you'd see if the game would get kind of close. Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, like they would try. At the end, LeBron, they would try at the end of the game. That had gone by the wayside, like, for 15 years. The guys had not tried at all. It was ridiculous. Games were in the 200s. I remember the Jason Tatum game where he scored like 55, and it was just guys walking in for layups. So, obviously, the NBA had earned all the criticism that had accompanied that. And, it got to the point where, the commissioner, Silver, he was going after guys. And people wondered, all right, but what's your solution? So they messed with the format over the last few years. Last year to no avail. None of that stuff worked. And then this year they laid out this clunky format, but guys actually tried. They tried
why?
In the USA versus the world.
And you know exactly why. You've put them in if you're not going to be motivated by money and you're in professional sports, you have to be motivated by something. Ego is a wonderful motivator. You've put them in a position to be trash talked. If you're not going to try for your country, quote unquote, even though it's an NBA event, not an Olympic event, but if you're not going to try for your country, if you're not going to try for where you came from, if you flat out just refuse to be embarrassed, these are things that make guys tick. I mean, they're all competitive. Now, they're not going to be competitive in a all-star setting where everybody's just kind of goofing off and having a good time. They weren't competitive. That's why that's changed. But we've seen in the playoffs, we've seen where they've been different. And so you needed to do something with a playoff atmosphere. I regret not seeing it. I'm not going to apologize to the NBA because it was still for me.
There were 4 games total. The last one you didn't need to see.
Well, regardless,
the old guys were a little winded.
I regret not getting to see it because all those things that I just gave to you. But I'm more apt to watch it next year, right? Because I should not be as distracted as I was this year.
Yeah, that's open. And they're crediting Wemby. Wemby basically told everybody beforehand, "Hey, we're trying this year." And people wondered. Anthony Edwards had done a press conference where he kind of made it seem like they weren't going to try again, but something must have happened because they definitely tried. Now, was it like NBA playoff effort? No, but guys actually played. Like you could tell Kawhi Leonard was going balls to the walls as if it was, 10 years ago. So guys were trying, and Wemby was blocking guys at the rim, and I think that kind of ignited a little bit. And let's be honest, the All-Star Saturday night was an embarrassment. It was a total embarrassment. There were empty seats all over the place. I can at least say in Cleveland when we had the All-Star game, what year was it?
2022.
2022? All right, people were at the All-Star Saturday night. People were into
sports
it.
Town.
And on Sunday, people were into the All-Star game, but they also had the 75th anniversary. They lumped that in. So I kind of felt like maybe the last year that it was kind of like my youth. It's never going to be like that again. And you know what? I'm not a kid anymore. Like I used to love all this stuff when I was younger. Obviously, it's not the same. But going forward, is this something to build on? It got higher ratings than the MLB All-Star Game. So do we have to now fix the MLB All-Star Game? Is anybody panicking with the Baseball League offices?
No.
Or do people just kind of accept there's more competition for your eyes than ever before, every minute of the day? Every podcast, every song, every movie that's ever been created, every sitcom, every Wire episode, every Breaking Bad, people can put that on whenever they want. So the ratings of all this stuff, you're going to see they're in direct competition.
Notice what I said to you just 2 minutes ago. I said I regret not seeing it. I regret not being there to see those things. So at this time next year, if they repeat this, especially because a wild-ass idea, and I'm sure it's been brought up before, is like if you're going to play USA versus the world, you might as well have an all-star game over in Europe. You might as well have an all-star game in France. You might as well have an all-star game over in England or wherever. You might as well do that if you're going to play it versus the world.
I'll get the crowd into it.
Because you can get the crowd into it as well. You could try to have an all-star game in Serbia if you want to, because I've seen those crowds, and I think that would be an incredible thing to see. Like, you can do that. What it's made me want to do is that now I will have to go out of my way to see it. So what it does is it works. So I don't know if it's going to have a higher number because of the Olympic lead-in, because that's why people bid that's why companies bid so much on the Olympics. That's why NBC has to have the Olympics, because it's obviously it's a moneymaker for them. But what it also does is I don't want it to water it down for next year, because I may be more interested and more excited to it. Or might go, listen, I got to see this. We all have to see it just to see what it's like, instead of, go ahead and put on whatever you want to put on after the race. Because you got to be picky and choosy with groups when it comes to sports if they're all going to sit around a TV. And we made our choice because it's a once-a-year thing. If it was another once-a-year thing, which the All-Star Game is, the 500 was going to win out with us. So now I go to next year and think, all right, when do I have to make sure that I get to see it? So technically, this has worked for the NBA.
Well, and I would also say, I didn't think anybody was going to watch this, so the numbers surprised me. And again, the Olympics, the lead-in, like we talked about, we'll get a lot of credit for it. But the NBA did. They give them a little bit of credit for attempting to modify all the stuff that people hate. I mean, as much as people, like, to a man, if we asked our audience, did you care about the play-in tournament? They'd still say no, because the Cavs haven't made a run. We haven't really been in it. But you want something that displaces the non-effort? Go watch the play-in tournament this year. Guys busted their asses in the play-in tournament. Some of those look like playoff games.
But I also think...
So give the NBA a little bit of credit. All we do is criticize them every day. Let's give them a little bit of credit.
But I think that's part of it as well, is that...
I mean, does MLB have a regular season game that people... looks like a playoff game? I wouldn't think so.
I don't have to question effort in regular season Major League Baseball games. I think in football, effort is questioned, but overall, I really don't think that there's a big issue with that.
Guys sit out getaway games.
Obviously.
There are plenty of baseball games I go to where the best players don't play.
But there's Sundays that happens. I mean, that's normal rest in a 162-game grueling schedule.
Yeah, but baseball doesn't get crushed for it.
No, but I don't think they should. I think you're holding guys out because you want to make sure of it. What I'm talking about, when you mention effort, that's a totally different thing. That's what people think they're getting their money's worth for and not getting their money's worth for. I still don't see that issue being brought up in the NFL, even though I think that you and I question it a little bit more. I'm not seeing that issue brought up in baseball.
A little bit about week 17 and week 18.
I see that issue brought up a ton when it comes to the NBA. That's what part of it is that you're making rules, making different events to protect against what? Guys walking around out there on the floor. And that's something that follows them around, and that's something that they have to fight as they try to get back into those ratings things when it comes into the All-Star game. Coming up in 5 minutes, boy, we might not have the competition for Malik Willis that we all thought we would. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan. Window Nation.
Edwards with an assist. Team USA with its 5th consecutive shutout. Meanwhile, Team USA reaching the gold medal game and will take on Canada on Thursday. Don't miss tonight's episode of the 92.3 The Fan off-season special. Get the latest on the Browns this evening from 7 to 9. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Joe Varden, 8 o'clock. Also a question of why they were playing so hard on Sunday. And I got called out on the carpet. All that coming up after Joe Varden at 8 o'clock. Because, I told Lima he wasn't doing his job earlier this year. And somebody who has a very good memory, one of our listeners, I'm like, all right, we'll have that fight coming up at around 8:20. 216-474-0092. Also the exact opposite of we will see you tomorrow night. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. I consider myself a man. Never mind. All right. We might not have as much Malik Willis competition as we thought we did. I saw some of the stories that were going on. Tyreek Hill has been released. The first thing is, well, Tyreek Hill, do you want him? Like, no, he wouldn't come here. There's no reason to bring him in.
That's not a tailor-made Andrew Berry attempt?
What, to see if there's any?
Yeah.
I mean, they've brought in, did we have Victor Cruz for a moment?
Yeah.
Years ago? Now, I don't know if that was an Andrew Berry thing. That was a long time ago. We had Victor Cruz for a moment. Like, they've kicked the tires on certain guys in the past. He had a serious leg injury this last year. Maybe it's over for Tyreek Hill in Miami. I'm not sure. But it seems that they're hitting a complete reset button. You brought up Bradley Chubb. Is going to be out there. A couple other guys. Like, they're hitting a complete reset button. And you said there's two different prevailing thoughts. If they're hitting a complete reset, why on earth would they go after Malik Willis? Why would they spend more money on Malik Willis, Tone?
Well, so I wonder about this.
I tell you what, I'd love that. I would love to have one less competition for one quarterback that we'd be interested in bringing in.
I wonder about this all the time because I see a lot of people say, oh, they're in full season tank mode to go get Arch. Right? That seems to be what a lot of people online are saying and some of the national guys. But I guess there's still, as has been evidenced by how bad the Browns have been in our lifetime, how many number 1 overall picks have we gotten? And we've had some of the worst coaches.
3?
Yeah. We had some of the worst coaches, some of the worst teams, some of the worst organizations. And guess what? There's stiff competition every year for that number 1 overall pick. How bad did we think we were when we lost the Jets game this year? Didn't we just all walk away from the Jets game and say we're the worst team in football?
Yeah.
Didn't we all say it?
Yeah, how could you not?
And what pick did we
end
up with?
You lost because of special teams. We somehow ended up with the 5th pick.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I got worked into a shoot.
So I'm saying, you can set out to get Arch, but, how realistic is that? And so part of me wonders, salary cap management is going to be part of it. So they're going to want to clear the books for the future because they realize they had some veterans on that team and they were going nowhere. They couldn't make the playoffs. So what was the point? They go get a new coaching staff and they're going to sit through a rebuild. But at the same time, wouldn't it still be worth a stab at, hey, okay, let's tear it all down. Let's go get Malik Willis if I'm Miami. And if he's just bad, all right, we're still in the running for Arch the following year. But if he's really good, then how many problems have we solved?
If he's really good, you've solved a lot of problems.
And you've done so on the cheap.
For any one of these QBs, Watson has to be exceptional because of the history for me. All right? If Shedeur Sanders plays week 1 and he can get him to an 8-win record, let's just put it out there. If he gets him to an 8-win record, then I think that we're building with something here. We can go further. Because I think that they are so bad offensively, and I'm about to highlight that here in just a moment. If Malik Willis were to come here and get them 8-9 wins, they do not have to be a playoff team. But that would be a significant jump. And yes, I know how bad the strength of schedule is, so there's a possibility they could do that, and you don't want to be fooled. I understand that. But if it came to one of those guys that were able to do it, because I think how bad this offense is, then I think that you're kind of working with something there and you're excited about something there. So there are possibilities that you could do it. With Malik Willis, I don't want to sit here and tell you that because there's one less team, especially they were the odds-on favorite for a lot of them. And we're not out of the woods yet. It just seems to be
because they're Halfley, right?
Yes. They seem to be like they were the odds-on favorite to get him. A lot of people were penciling him in there. But if you're getting rid of all these assets and you are in a position where you're gonna take this thing out and you're gonna go after number one, and that's gonna be it, which the Dolphins have tried to do before. If you're gonna do that, why are you gonna bring in a $50 million quarterback for 2 years? Why are you gonna do something like that? The Browns defense is an elite defense. They would have an argument to do so. But you also have other teams. So I don't want to say, well, he comes for you cheaper. Maybe Malik Willis at $30 million a year. Now he's at $25 million a year because there's one less team. I'm not sure. I think if you have one more team that really wants his services, you can still drive up the price. So Pittsburgh would be a possibility. Minnesota would be a possibility. There's other places that you think of that may need a quarterback that would definitely drive the price up on you just because it ain't the fish. I don't think that that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, that's why I always wonder, what the real evaluations are. And what a tough evaluation it is, both for Malik Willis, for guys that haven't started a ton of games, but have been in the league that long. And so you wonder, what is your evaluation of Malik Willis? If the Browns on a scale of 1 to 10, and again, a lot of guesswork involved too, and it's not like you can make a lot of phone calls like you did the head coach. You have to actually just watch the tape. And the tape is pretty good in the last few years of Malik Willis. Not the stuff his rookie year. That's terrible. Do you throw that out? Probably not. Still got to take that into consideration, just like you're also evaluating Shedeur Sanders' rookie tape, and his fans want to throw a lot of that out because of what? Because of the disastrous situation. Well, Malik Willis had a disastrous situation when he walked into the league. The difference is, if you're the Browns, you're trying to figure things out as quick as you can. I understand that the expectations are not going to be high for this team no matter who is quarterbacking. Although we can make the argument, if you went and got Malik Willis, does that change expectations? I guess it depends on who you ask, because it depends on how good you think Malik Willis is.
It certainly would. Can I throw another thing at you here? Not because I got another trade that Bill Barnwell actually has with the Browns, but I wanted to throw something by you here. One is he came up with trade proposals that fits because today's the day where you can start really franchise tagging guys and figuring it out. Now, Bill Barnwell of ESPN, he put one out there where he has the Vikings getting quarterback Mac Jones, getting also a 2027 third-round pick. So Mac Jones, the Vikings get Mac Jones and a 2027 third-rounder. This is what they give up. This is why I'm asking you. Second-round pick this year, 2027 fifth, 2028 third round. Conditional on both. So is that something you'd be willing to do for Mac Jones?
No.
No?
I would not. I am not, especially...
Really?
Part of it is fit.
I thought you really liked Mac Jones.
I know. I've wondered, right? He had some really solid moments, in his first year or whatever.
Interesting.
With New England. Had some solid moments coming in. But I wonder about ceiling with him. See, part of what fascinates me with Malik Willis, aside from the fact that your head coach has talked about dual threat and athleticism, seems to, you can find a lot of clips of Todd Monken talking about that. With Mac Jones, you're not really getting that ceiling. You're just getting a guy that could come in and start and be competent. And yeah, I guess with an elite defense, you'd say, okay, that's a playoff team. But what's the ceiling? I got to admit, I'm sitting there going, man, the highlights I've seen of Malik Willis, if you've got good coaching.
You really like him.
You
really like him.
It's like anything. It's like any day. I only have a few games to look at. I've got the games from, the previous year, and then last year, the two big ones at the end of the year. And he looks great in those games. Yeah, he really does.
Well, first off, but
it's such a small sample that you're wondering, what does this mean? How does it... How can you extrapolate that?
That's why I got to draw you back. One guy is 25-32 as a starter in his career. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a guy who played all 17 games in 2021, he played 14 games in 2022, he played in 11 in 2023 when things really bottomed out with New England. Then he ends up over in Jacksonville, then he ends up in San Francisco where he's 5-3. One guy has just put out so much more because he's a former first-round pick.
Sure.
Malik Willis, they made him a third-round choice. He's down in Tennessee. You're right. I'm not using any of the Tennessee stuff against him because we barely got a chance to really look at him in Tennessee, and we barely got a chance to really look at him in Green Bay. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has just over a handful of starts in Green Bay and Tennessee versus a guy who's had, 32 starts overall, well more than 32, 57 starts overall as a quarterback in his career. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of starts for a guy, and you saw what happened when they did what they did in New England. There's more tape on the against when it comes to Mac Jones, But just because I haven't seen it yet with Malik Willis, it doesn't make me all of a sudden want to go right on into it.
No, I mean,
the other guy, the reason why I agree with you, though, let me tell you why. That's a long way to go around to actually tell you I agree with you about Malik Willis, and let me tell you why. I need all the picks I can get. I don't believe that Mac Jones is that big of a difference maker. I don't know if Malik Willis is that big of a difference maker. One only costs me money. They could figure a way to make it count with money or make it all work with money. Picks are picks. I need my picks. I need to hit on my guys to be around this guy. And even though I haven't seen a lot with Malik Willis, so I disagree with you on that, I know that one guy only costs me money because I think that the other guy, he could cost you picks and he could still just not be that great for you. Fit is another issue. I have to grant you. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, like when I think of Mac Jones, I think of a Kevin Stefanski offense. I think of a Shanahan offense. I don't really think of the Todd. I know Todd is celebrated because he can do a lot of different things and tailor it to the QB, which I would hope any coach would. But just in listen, I mean, do you kind of see what I'm saying when it comes to every time I hear Todd Monken talk, he's talking about like the future of the NFL.
Yeah.
Not the Mac Jones who we're going to have to bootleg. We're on these Kevin Stefanski rollouts and system QB. Like, I'm not really, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a guy that he would be jumpy at.
I would agree with you on that. There's another one here that I wanted to throw into you, and this is why I don't feel that great about the Browns. However, I think I have to throw something a little bit different in there. Now, here's where Bill Barnwell goes. He has the Browns trading for Walker Little and giving up a 7th-round pick. Or they get a 7th-round pick, I beg your pardon. The Jacksonville Jaguars get a 2026 5th-round pick. So a 5th-round pick this year, you get Walker Little. Walker Little is an offensive lineman. He was taken in the 2nd round by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And your response was, when you Google Walker Little's name, it's nothing but people complaining about Walker Little.
Which is normally what happens when guys are available in free agency.
But hold on. You're right. But this is where I'm at on this. He's only 26 years old. Okay, they can make a trade for him, and this is why I'm open-minded to something like this, because I have warned many times over in free agency, it's like, hey, if they're free agents, they're free agents for a reason. This is a trade. This is a trade with Jacksonville. You get a 7th-round pick. You're giving up a 6th-round pick to get Walker Little, okay? This is where I think there could be a change here, is that we're seeing more and more quarterbacks in their second time around have some success. Depends on how much. There's Sam Darnold. There's Geno Smith. Both have seen some success after they were with the New York Jets. If I go back to the Browns, Cam Irving, bust as a 1st-round pick for the Cleveland Browns. Still ended up having a decent enough long career. The other thought I had was Austin Corbett. Austin Corbett, if you don't remember him,
I remember him.
Was, I believe, a 2nd-round pick by the Cleveland Browns. Got to make sure I'm right on that. 2nd round, 33rd overall by the Cleveland Browns. Unplayable with Cleveland until he was traded. With the LA Rams, now he's kind of on the backside of his career now. He's approached over 30 years old. But last year, played in 13 games, started in 11 games, and started just about every game for the LA Rams during his time there in the first year when he was with Carolina. Has battled some injuries. Clearly, he's been better with his 2nd and 3rd team than he ever was with the Cleveland Browns. Wyatt Teller. They gave up on Wyatt Teller in Buffalo. They traded Wyatt Teller to us. We got great years out of Wyatt Teller. Unfortunately, I think that we're probably at our end, even though everybody knows I love Wyatt. Is there a possibility it could be better the second time around? It does feel different to me when you're trading for a guy than you are picking a guy up in free agency. The warnings are always there. Do they make him available in free agency, especially with the dearth of offensive linemen that we have now, if they're any good? The answer is no. If they make him available in a trade, they don't think that he's good enough to play for a competitive football team. That's what Jacksonville is saying. I'm not going to sit there and lie to anybody.
Well, he might not be that this year.
But could you be, that's true, but could you be a place that you find him as a suitor where he doesn't become a problem for you?
I totally get that.
I think we have to be open-minded to such a thing.
Well, we have to, because this is what happens when you have 5 potential openings on the offensive line. You're going to have to take guys that have a bit of a checkered past, and you just got to kind of get used to that. But you're right. They struck gold before when they did the Wyatt Teller move. Maybe they could do that again.
Joe Varden coming up at 8 o'clock. The Cavs have the inside track to the number 1 seed, and somebody who you know very well might be ready to rejoin the Cavs, and the exact opposite of do you believe in miracles? Coming up in 5 minutes on Lima Likes on the Fan. Northeast Factory Direct, coming into your home.
Weeknights at 11.
Does Lima like?
Or does Lima no like?
Like?
Tell me likey. I'm liking it.
I like it a lot.
No like.
He doesn't like you.
I don't like you either.
You're tacky and I hate you.
Like or no like. Like or no like.
But I definitely knew what I liked, and I definitely knew what I didn't like.
I gotta say, Kenny, our relationship has paid off in a big way. Because while you may not sometimes want to come over to my side and watch the NBA when they have their big weekend,
I would gladly come over and watch the NBA. We had people over, they weren't watching the NBA All-Star game. Stop it.
So
what an ambassador for the sport.
Well, Kenny got my ears perked up. We were dialed in. I even sent you a picture of the kids.
Yeah, it's great.
We were watching the Great American Race, at least the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
That's all we really needed, right?
Yeah, true.
And what a finish, as here is the close on Fox. Tyler Reddick emerging.
Been on the
Elliott
show.
around the outside. Still green. Reddick on the bottom. Reddick, Elliott. The help's on the outside. Here comes Chase Elliott. Can it be?
Yes,
Chase Elliott.
Stuck in the middle with no help.
Zane Smith with him. On the bottom is Tyler Reddick. They come up single file. Zane Smith's going to have one shot at Chase Elliott, NASCAR champion, most popular driver, trying for the win, and Reddick to the top side. He's got help. Riley Herbst, his teammate. Reddick drops to the bottom. Alongside Elliott, in the wall goes Herbst, and Tyler Reddick comes to the line.
Wow.
A shower of sparks behind him. Unbelievable.
Unreal.
Didn't really hear of him all day long until the last lap.
So again, audio courtesy of Fox. So Kenny, I sat there, mouth agape, just going nuts. I could not believe what I had just seen. And then I texted Ken. I'm like, what's up with the broadcast? And I think your response was?
I don't remember. Was I drunk?
Did
you text me on Saturday?
Was I drunk?
Sunday? Yeah.
What a dumb question.
I'm sorry. Lima.
It just seemed like is that the norm in NASCAR? Guys go into the wall and they're like, guy goes into the wall. Like they're just so used to crashes and it doesn't even matter when it's.
He's gone. He's out.
Yeah, on the final stretch.
Okay.
Think about how like Gus Johnson would have commentated on that.
So this is what's going on. Is NASCAR is going through their own little Al Michaels phase with Mike Joy. Mike Joy is 76 years old.
Oh, I didn't know he was
it makes sense to you.
Yeah, I didn't know he was that old.
Now it makes sense. What do people say about Al Michaels? Like you could have
76 years old.
Yeah, you could have a Hail Mary to win a Thursday, and Al Michaels is like, all right, here comes the guys in the post game after this. Like that's what you're going to get.
You've seen it all.
Mike Joy's kind of the same way, and so people are very critical of Mike Joy. You are not wrong. Plus, I mean that booth lost a lot of energy when Darrell Waltrip hung him up.
I missed. How did they not pipe in the boogity boogity boogity?
What's he up to?
He's just hanging out at his house, man. That's all Darrell's doing. You're thinking of the other one. He's still on the pre-race, much to my chagrin.
Who's that?
Michael Waltrip.
Oh, okay.
He was in
Googling his name.
He's a very interesting Google search right now,
We'll
Michael Waltrip. Yeah. Yeah.
You know where my mind went to. So. Anyway.
I think I know where it went, and I think you might be right.
All right. Tyler Reddick, been on the show, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Yes, he has. A few times, actually. He actually believes that your father was a dirt track racer.
That's right. That's right. His son was featured in some of the post-game video.
He is. Yes, of course he is. Yes.
With the owner of the team, Michael Jordan. Anyway.
Lima likes.
It was an all-star weekend. We talked about the ratings. They were up. They actually beat the crap out of the Pro Bowl, even MLB All-Star. But again, LeBron James having his own kind of media gathering, as he always does. He gets his own press conference, and a familiar voice who we're going to have on the show coming up, Joe Vardon, had this to ask.
Still have the same uncertainty about next year? Do you have an inkling of what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I want to live. When I know, you guys will know. I don't know. I have no idea. I just want to live, that's all.
Thank goodness.
That's good. So we know the whole breathing thing is going to keep happening.
He's going to wake up and he's going to breathe in and out.
To do that, yeah.
every day.
Boy, it seemed like conventional wisdom from everybody that left All-Star Weekend is he will be on the Cavs next year.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that?
I mean, I'm open-minded as long as he's willing to be in the passenger seat.
Now, what do you think?
Everybody's like, he's willing to do what Luka can. He's willing. Okay, well, this is the Cavs.
Yeah.
A different animal, and you guys
I got
know
a
that.
different topic for you then.
Which is?
Does that make this year much more important? The one thing that we've talked about, is the finals. Is that a step up or whatever for the Cavs? Well, it'd be the first one without LeBron, right? So now they got to make the finals this year, because if he comes back next year and they make it, and even if he isn't the star of the team, he'll still have been on the roster next year. So they got to make it now. They got to make it to the finals now if he's going to come back.
Part of me wonders, to play devil's advocate for anybody that would be worried about what a distraction, LeBron and his farewell tour could be. Part of me is like, but wouldn't that kind of take the pressure off? Like, if everybody was talking about the malaise of this regular season and every loss, it was like, man, these guys are nowhere near as good as last year. Like, couldn't that kind of come as a welcome, hey, look over here while, whatever version of their team, especially if it's going to be James Harden. And obviously the regular season's not going to be life or death for them next year, depending on what they do this year, obviously. But let's say they go to the NBA Finals this year. Let's say it all is rosy and they go to the NBA Finals. How much will you care about the day in, day out regular season next year? Probably not that much. So if LeBron is out doing his farewell, what does it hurt?
Care in the same sense that I didn't care about it this year because I was mad about the way things were going. Yeah, I probably won't be as upset next year.
I don't know. Just food for thought. Meanwhile,
Lima likes.
New renderings came out for your stadium in Brook Park, and they were all over this. A couple of the sports business journals and everything. They said the fans will be closer to the field than any other NFL stadium. In fact, I think the number they said, the dog pound will be 54 feet closer to the field than the current home, as quoted in the Sports Business Journal. David Jenkins of the Haslam Sports Group. Do you think that will create any kind of a home field advantage?
How did they get 54 feet closer? It looks pretty close already. 54 feet is pretty damn significant. Yeah.
Are you in harm's way?
There.
Will errant passes be hitting you on the nose?
It'll be like the Iowa Barnstormers all over again. Just guys jumping into the crowd.
The dog pound end zone's only going to be 4. What do we do?
Well, the quarterback
get 50. How do you get 54 feet?
Will they mistake some of the fans as actual intended targets?
I'm sure they have a reason, or they have a way to it. With the architecture, I'm not an architect. I have no idea, but it looks already close as it is. 54 feet is a hell of an amount.
Now you got to bring the opposite team's jersey and put it on anytime they're driving into that end zone. Just put your hands up, wave,
let them know.
I saw anytime.
Wait a minute, that's a different team's.
Any information comes out about this new amazing stadium that's going to be state of the art, and apparently they've done all the research and they've put all the science into how this is going to create a home field advantage. The negativity in the responses on social media from Browns fans. It is just all over the place. Will eventually, when this finally is done, will fans be happy? Or is it only going to be whether or not the team's good?
Dennis Kucinich won't be, but probably a lot of folks will be. Unless the team's really, really bad. Which they've been bad, so we'll find out.
What a day yesterday was.
I'm alive.
Kenny, how did you celebrate 216 Day?
Didn't even realize it.
Excuse me.
Didn't even realize.
What, February 16th?
Downtown.
I'm sorry. I was at home. I didn't know. Boy, you guys just anything you can do to throw me under a bus.
The Browns put a celebration, the celebratory post out about it. Happy 216 Day. The Guardians celebrated as well. And Hayden Grove was singing his song all over the place, all over the city. So, happy 216 Day. Are you going to incorporate this in future Ken Carman traditions?
Probably not. Well, if you guys are just going to call out me not know, I'm going to call you guys out. You guys call out Hayden for his video because you say he's always pointing at the ground wherever he's standing. Well,
what's wrong with that?
I don't know. Apparently, you guys have a problem with it.
I don't have any problem.
And he's letting you know that he's in Cleveland.
Yeah, you're going to put my business out there. I'll put your business out there.
I
How do you like that?
those President's Day mattress sales yesterday. Bought pillows.
Oh, one final note.
I'm alive.
Folks, Anthony Kim, first win in a decade on the Live Tour. Congratulations. Showing anybody can overcome. the vices that held him back throughout the course of his career.
I'm going
Anthony Kim's
I will
vices?
Google the history.
Let's just say, I feel like if Anthony Kim, if there was a Cleveland stop,
We're going to Google.
back in the day, we would have been friends.
We're going to Google the vices.
That's it for Lima Likes.
All right, coming up tonight, remember, 7 to 9 p.m. tonight, you have the off-season special. Darryl Ryder, Lance Reisland, Jake Volnick. I'm sure they're going to be talking about Mike Rutenberg. We will be talking more about Mike Rutenberg coming up at around 8:20. Up next, the Cavs have that inside track to the number 1 seed. And has LeBron already packed his boxes to move back to Cleveland? Joe Vardon from The Athletic joins us in 5 minutes on those possibilities on The Fan.
Anthony Lima for Mentality Health. If you're feeling like you lost,
92.3 The Fan's off-season special. Get the latest on the Browns this evening from 7 to 9. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Catch Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin live on YouTube each and every weekday from 2 to 7 p.m.
All-Star Weekend has come and gone, and somebody pointed out my hypocrisy. And we will highlight that coming up at 8:22 this morning also. Mike Rutenberg and why you need to keep an open mind to the guy. That coming up at 8:20 as well. 216-474-0092. If you're on hold, stay there. Let's get to Joe Varn. He is on the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline. Joe, how the hell are you? Thanks for joining us.
Doing okay. You know, it was pretty ugly in L.A. yesterday, temperature-wise and rain-wise, so it's kind of weird to get off the plane at home and have the air be about the same.
Oh, I was going to say, hopefully we were better off than them because that would make me feel better. But either way, Joe, first off, I know that you had the operative question to LeBron James about what he's going to do in his future. Lima says, I mean, it basically does feel, I got to agree with him. It does feel like a lot of people are just penciling him in. Like, yeah, there's going to be a third go around with the Cavaliers next year.
There just aren't that many places that make sense, Ken, if he doesn't retire. So for what it's worth, our beat writer for the Lakers, Dan Wojcicki, he still thinks that LeBron is ultimately going to retire. But for those of us who are no longer sure, then you get into the business of where's he going to go? It's just between the opportunity and the comfort. There just aren't that many places that would make more sense than Cleveland.
Well, you just if you factor in also where this team is, the Cavs right now, and I keep checking, they are still right now the favorites on multiple sites to come out of the Eastern Conference. The James Harden stuff, which has come with some energy. They're one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in all of basketball. How much does that factor into having LeBron and his attention for one last go around?
You know, Anthony, I don't know. He always says that he is that he's in it to win it. Still trying to go for championships. Like, he knows that's kind of been unrealistic with the Lakers the last couple of years. Yes, this team is definitely in a win now mode. This year, James Harden is awesome. He's obviously been a really good fit just in a couple games with the Cavs, but it was having a tremendous year with the Clippers. So he's still really good at this age. Will he still be this good next year? I don't know, but Donovan's in his prime. Evan, is just getting there. So yeah, you throw LeBron into a mix where he doesn't have to be the second best player even. Maybe not the third best player. He can really just be a role player at that age. Would be appealing to him. Also, he still has his mansion here, and his mom still lives here. So yeah, those are, when I said opportunity, it's certainly not about the money. It is about the combination of where he can be comfortable, and then also where he would still have a chance to achieve the on-court goals that he has left.
So, I mean, we talked about the type of team that he would return to. Well, let's talk about that type of team where it might end up being at the end of the year. Do the Cavs now have the inside track with this addition of James Harden, the injury concerns with other teams in the East? Do the Cavs have the inside track to the number one seed?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they catch the Pistons. I think that's the one that's out of reach. I'm just kudos to JB and to Trajan out there for building and cultivating that roster, and they've been good. But outside of that, guys, I think the Cavs have as good a chance as any, and as we know, it's not about the number one seed; it's about what happens after. And so, we're going to see. We're going to see how Donovan does with this group around him. He's still trying to get out of the second round, but there is a lot of optimism with that group right now. I saw Donovan a couple of times in LA, and I'm not breaking any major news here, but he's really excited. He is beaming, really, I would say, about where they are right now, and this should feel good for Cavs fans too. That there's a story. We do an annual All-Star poll. And there's a few different ones coming out this year. But in one of the answers, I quote Donovan. I'm not going to say what the question is. But his answer was, no, I don't want to go do X because I have to win a championship in Cleveland first. So he's locked in and committed to doing it here and knows that now's the time all of a sudden.
Var, did you ask him if he still has designs of playing in New York? Is that where that came from? Come on. What are you doing?
Nope. That's definitely not it. I'm not interested in that one. I don't like those questions. I mean, like, even if notice now, like, no one's saying to LeBron, hey, are you coming back to Cleveland? Everybody's saying, are you going to play next year? So, So for me, I don't care about New York one way or the other. That was not the question.
All right, Joe Vardon right now appearing on the Make It Right Kyle Wright hotline. So you were, in L.A., all the buzz surrounding, All-Star Weekend. Before we get to that in a second, though, what were you hearing from other people around the league about the Cavs and that move, especially now that more news came out on Darius Garland? I don't know if people were paying attention over the weekend, but apparently they are even concerned about the original toe injury, not the new toe injury.
Yeah, I didn't hear much about Darius. That is a curious situation just because in the final hours before the trade was commenced, you were getting indications from Darius's people, from the Clippers, and the Cavs, all three, that he was either like able to play or close, or there was no concern. And now, like, we get to the other side of this, and it's stretching, out and out, and you just wonder how much tanking has to do with that. Like, the indication I had gotten from the Clippers was that they were still trying to win, despite having gone in this go young direction.
Well, and they don't even have their own picks, so they could tank all they want. It's not going to help them.
Yeah, I mean, we're still also waiting to see what happens with the league office. And the investigation into them for cap circumvention. So a lot of stuff up in the air with the Clippers. Here, I would have to say from a basketball discussion, they were among the darlings of the weekend. I mean, the league has taken notice what happened here. And everybody's noticed that the Cavs have looked as they've looked with James and what's gone on with Jarrett Allen and what most of the league probably didn't notice was that Jarrett Allen had been a reason for the team playing so well prior to the trade. So we should be fair to that. But obviously, in the 3 games that James has played, that pick and roll is nasty, and they had like one practice. So lots of reason for optimism, and Mobley is ready to come back. He's doing great. So, they're about to be ready to go there with 2 bigs and also James being 6'5" and doing all the things he can do. So, again, basketball-wise, a lot of people are talking about this. And then with the LeBron factor always being what it is, that just kind of keeps the Cavs in the discussion even more.
So tell me what the downside of this is, because Lima and I were proponents of the trade before it happened when it was first broke that they were talking. We were obviously fans of the trade when it went down. And I have a lot of folks who, yes, I think a lot of Cavs fans have changed their mind, but there's a lot of outsiders going, you just wait. And I go, wait on what? I don't think that this is going to be a long-term marriage myself anyway, so I always assume that these things are going to end badly. I don't think it matters to me that it ends badly as long as they can get as close to a championship as they can, and that's what I think that they're doing.
Well, as the three of us know, and all of our neighbors know too, if we're being honest, the last 3 years have been really bad, bitter, like terrible taste in your mouth type finishes to a postseason. So if this goes the way the naysayers say when it comes to James, well, how is that any different? So if we want to take the worst scenario where James has the problems that he's had in the playoffs in the past, and Donovan doesn't have enough to overcome those, and they lose early, well, that's what we've seen with the quote-unquote core four for 3 years, and they got way cheaper with much more flexibility now. So at minimum, things are the same, but with more flexibility moving forward. Now, let's say they aren't the same. Let's say that now you have a 6'5" guard who is still excellent and can do other things beyond shoot it next to Donovan Mitchell, with Evan now in a case where he is not being relied on to dribble into traffic or to initiate offense. So you get peak Mobley in terms of what he can do for you, and you've unlocked Jared Allen. And then one of the best surprises of the year is your young wing in Jalen Tyson. So these are all really great things that could lead to something special in the summer, and it's unlocked because you did the thing that the three of us have been talking about every time we talk about the Cavs, literally every time, which is it's really hard to win with two small guards, and they got away from that. So, I think Darius was and remains a fan favorite, no question. And I think James's reputation out, in the league is not great. And some of that has to do with what has happened with him in the playoffs. So he's got work to do there. But even in Philadelphia, when he was playing next to Joel Embiid, the MVP, that team was still in a case where, if James wasn't at his peak scoring the ball, they were going to struggle against the Miami Heat team. And in this situation in Cleveland, he doesn't have to necessarily be that. There's lots of options around him.
Joe Vardon with us. So the weekend was all about the problems of the NBA when it comes to tanking and the All-Star weekend. Were they able to at least figure out one of those and solve one issue with the pretty sizable ratings boost that they got on Sunday with the All-Star games? Well,
Anthony, there's a lot to that. You mentioned the ratings, and I don't. Okay, as you guys know, and I've talked about this on when I come on the show occasionally. That I have these friends I grew up with, and we have a text chain like everybody else in America, but these guys I grew up with, and every single one of them, all of them, are huge basketball fans. They're locked into the Cavs. We're talking hoops all the time. Zero of them were watching the All-Star game when the ball went up at 2:00. And I think one of them was tuned in by the middle of game 2. So if those guys aren't watching, I am surprised by the number, the ratings number. We were mortified. We're sitting there. It's 1:57 p.m. in Intuit Dome, and I'm telling you, there were rows of empty seats, and we were really concerned that this was going to go the entire other direction. So, yes, the building mostly filled up. There were still, for an All-Star game, quite a few empty seats, and I just I'm the point I'm trying to make is the NBC taking over. That's network television as opposed to TNT, makes a difference. But that is such a massive ratings increase that I do scratch my head a little bit. Friday was Adam's Tech Summit, which I've been able to attend now for 2 or 3 years in a row, and that's supposed to be off the record. He brought up some of the stuff live, a lot of AI, a lot of kind of depressing talk there. And then Saturday, of course, was his press conference. And he says everything's on the table when it comes to tanking. That's interesting. But then the vibe leaving LA was so overwhelmingly positive because the players decided to play. They gave us an amazing Sunday because they chose to care. It would be that way if they chose to care in a 48-minute East versus West game. Now, we could talk about the nuances of the format that made it easier for them to play, but that's the bottom line. The players gave us a treat by competing, and so we all left LA feeling a lot better than when we came in.
Do you think one of the reasons why players tried harder in the game was because President Barack Obama was sitting courtside?
I do not. I don't. That was, they enjoyed that for sure. And lots of guys who know him were over there saying hello and meeting him for the first time as well, some of them. But the nuance is this, and I hadn't thought about this until somebody brought it up to me. When you play these, when each quarter is a game, there isn't that same lull that we have that we always have in the middle of like all-star games, even when it's East versus West. And you're in that second quarter and some of the reserves are playing and it just doesn't matter. And so it really gets slow. And with every 12 minutes being a game and coaches actually managing rotations within those quarters to win, that makes it easier, even for a guy who isn't as normally interested in playing on All-Star Sunday. That makes it easier for them to give maximum effort. I also thought you had two players that don't normally give you what they have in the All-Star, and that's Luka and Nikola, two of the best players we have in the league. They were both managed out. They barely played, and that was better for the product, and it was easier to do that in this format. It's easier to hide them and not put as much stress on the rest of the guys as you do if you just have a single game to manage playing time. And those two are taking up spots. So that's the nuance of the format that I hadn't thought of ahead of time that I do think played into getting the good product we had on Sunday.
Joe, outstanding as always, man. Thank you very much for the time. We will talk to you again, hopefully very shortly. Take care.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Joe Vardon on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Right hotline. Well, I guess I'm about to walk into a hornet's nest coming up in 5 minutes. Also, one of the listeners, depending on the argument that we had about an hour and a half ago, one of the listeners remembers another argument that we had just a few weeks ago, and my hypocrisy about to be exposed, coming up in 5 on The Fan.
Anthony Lima for QC Kinetics.
programs, work-based learning, and seamless transfer options. Learn more at try-c.edu/workforce.
All day long.
All day.
All the time.
At work.
923thefan.com and the Odyssey app.
Check it out.
$8:45. They don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. I'm asking you to keep an open mind. Just asking. Please keep an open mind. So Daryl said yesterday on the show with Nick that he believed that they were playing harder because President Obama was sitting courtside. Why is Daryl being made fun of by some people about that in our station? I actually agree with Daryl.
That you think it's
I think one of the reasons they might have played harder is that President Obama was sitting courtside.
So wait a second. So that then assumes that he had not been at any of the last 15 All-Star games, which have all been abysmal.
Has he been to all the other
I imagine
All-Star
he's
games?
been to a bunch. He loves basketball.
So my issue, I think that there's other natural things that play to it. And again, I brought up with you, and it wasn't even my first thought, that because President Obama was sitting courtside that they'd play harder. But let me tell you this. There was a video. There is, I think there's a little bit like, hey, this is on a worldwide stage now. It isn't just me. I play for the Bucks, and so I got to play hard or whatever. It's not this weird gentleman's agreement. It's like, no, there's actual trash talk that can happen. And if you're playing for Europe or playing for the world, you kind of want to show off. And I think people do get defensive of where they come from. We obviously get very defensive of Cleveland. We're from here. I'm sure if I just started ripping on Oklahoma all day, every day, I'm sure Owen would find some umbrage with that. I mean, there's always things about where you come from where you're going to get defensive about it. So, yeah, if you're an American basketball player and you're from Chicago or something like that, yeah, you're gonna play for Chicago. But I remember there was a video. I want to say it was Halle Berry. Shaq said he noticed Halle Berry courtside and was like, everything gets thrown to me. Like during a timeout, he's like, I don't care what you guys call up, draw up, throw it to me. To the block we go. When he was with the Lakers. I'm just saying, if there is a president sitting courtside, if he came in here right now, if President Obama came walking in here right now and sat over in that corner and just was like, I just want to watch, I'd be locked in. I don't know, I'd probably freak out and it'd be every hot take I've ever had, but I would be locked in. You wouldn't be locked in if a president came in here?
I just
if you knew a president was like,
sure,
okay,
that's us. I assume those guys have played a lot of games where President Obama, he goes to a ton of games.
And I'm sure, but you still are going to show, it's not like he's an everyday guy. It's the president of the United States. And that means you're still going to try to put on a show for the president of the United States.
So then now the NBA has to pay him to show up at all these games. That
I did not say that. I did not say that. No.
Will that work for the tanking games too?
No. Now, he doesn't want to go to Pelicans games, I imagine, and I wouldn't either. I don't care. I'm just pointing out you're on a nation, you're a worldwide. Is it so crazy? Is Daryl crazy to say something like that? Our boss thinks he is.
I kind of feel like it's crazy. Yeah.
Really?
Because they have so many celebrities that they love. They have. Did you see? There's a video of Denzel Washington at one of the games, recently with the Lakers, and he just gets up during the middle of the game and walks over to LeBron.
TV timeout.
And LeBron looked annoyed until he realized, oh, it's Denzel.
Yeah,
like that's a different guy. So I don't know. I don't think it's the celebrity angle that's going to get them to
Washington, and not one usher went, hey, Mr.
Apparently he's allowed to just walk across the floor.
In the game where LeBron saw Jim Brown courtside, LeBron didn't turn it up a little bit more. I mean, legends are legends. And this is a president of the United States.
So they just need to will him out like he's quick change?
No. That's not what I'm pointing out. He
Get
can't
the bulls out. Here comes President Obama.
What about Jay Farrow dressed as Barack Obama?
Oh, wouldn't mind that either.
No. You guys are being so stupid about this.
That way they don't need the real thing every time.
You guys are being. You're telling me. Think about any of the. Name President Trump now and all the alive presidents. Bill Clinton.
Oh, I think
George W.
I think at the UFC, at the White House, I think you will find no shortage of guys that want to.
President Trump
fight
was
their
at the
hardest.
NCAA wrestling championship last year, and it was a huge deal. Wyatt Hendrickson was an Air Force guy, right? He's in the reserves. It was a huge deal for him, but that's also not that's the biggest stage that sport's ever been on, right? With the biggest person ever.
Yeah, this isn't the NBA Finals.
All-Star
it's
game.
the All-Star game.
And it's still, but he's still sitting there. You still want to put on a show for the President of the United States. You just agreed with me. How do you not agree with me about the All-Star game?
I just think he's been to a bunch of these. I bet if you looked, he's probably been to like 7 of these over the last 15 years, and it didn't really move the needle.
Maybe he has. Look up how many he's been
His
to.
SeatGeek
Meredith,
account probably
John,
has all his games.
Somebody find how many All-Star games he's been to. Yes. And if he's been to a bunch of them before, I'll stand down. I just saw the one video. The only thing I saw, because remember, I didn't watch, which we're going to get to here in a moment. I didn't watch, but all I saw was the video of Donovan Mitchell hugging President Obama. So I just assume that it's not like he's been to all these other All-Star games in the past. Like this is a special occurrence. He's in Los Angeles. He went to the All-Star game. I'm just saying, I'm not going to go out there and walk around on the basketball floor and look like I'm lazy in front of the President of the United States. We only have 4 that are alive, right? After Jimmy Carter passed. Any one of the 4 presidents. Oh, Joe Biden, of course. Good God. 5 presidents. Any one of the 5 presidents that have been alive. I'm going to tell you right now, any of them walk in, I'm locking in. I'm going to lock in for any of them. President Obama comes and sits in here. I don't know what we're going to do, but I'm going to come off as eloquently as possible and be as razor sharp as possible. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, yeah, because there's going to be 2 Secret Service guys staring at you.
Well, you guys had the one situation where there was and that's right, but you remember they had the convention center over here, and the one day apparently George W. Bush walked in here, and I had no idea. I've never got to meet a president, whether they be a former president. Well, once you're president, you're always president. Whether it be a former sitting president or a current president, I never did, and I was mad at all you guys. It was the same thing I got mad at about Shaq, that I didn't get to meet Shaq. And then Keith kept it away from me. And then I look on Facebook, and everybody and their brother are from the other side taking pictures with Shaq. But Keith didn't want me coming in here taking a picture with Shaq.
I got an email about it.
Yeah, that was great. That was awesome. Thanks a lot. I just don't think it's far-fetched to say that tried a little bit harder because a former president of the United States, was sitting courtside. When you just said the UFC fighters, fight harder when Donald Trump said.
Well, yeah, because if they lose, they don't get another chance to fight sometimes, and that's their career. So I think they'll fight.
How many All-Star games can you say you're going to make? We thought Darius Garland was going to make every All-Star game there was after he made his first one.
They could have the president pro tempore sitting courtside, and that might be enough for a UFC fighter.
I got called out on the carpet earlier. Dan O'Shaughnessy. Social media reactions brought to you by
Shivan Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
Isn't it Kenny's job to watch the NBA All-Star Weekend like you had to watch the Uses Pro Bowl, which he sent it to Tone? And I went, damn it, you got me on some hypocrisy here.
Well, yeah, we did a whole show for those that may not have been there, because Shedeur was going to be in this flag football thing, along with Joe Flacco. Yep. I know we still have Joe Flacco fans as the last quarterback that was in a playoff game for us. But I didn't watch any of it. Obviously, I knew I'd see any clips. And unfortunately, all the clips were interceptions from Shedeur, which, people want to take their pot shots or whatever. It's
or a touchdown to a lineman.
I just
thought, flag football game.
Are we or are we not all pro Donovan Mitchell in this city?
Oh, yeah.
Can you really find any detractors that you would take seriously if they were against Donovan Mitchell? No. As of right now, no. Shedeur Sanders is one of the most polarizing names in the city. When it comes to sports, he might be the most polarizing name in this city. Can you think of anybody else? Like, you remember, Emmanuel Clase doesn't have a good name right now. That's not polarizing. There's not people on his side. He'll have his day in court. We'll find out.
I don't know if you'll ever see him in our city
again.
But
there's people who are upset. Well, we got to figure out how long the sentence is if he's found guilty.
He has to go to court here.
64 years is one of the possibilities there. That seems to be a bit excessive. 64 years for gambling. Good Lord Almighty. Anyway, what I'm pointing out is that Shedeur is the most. I cannot go against what Dan says here on social media. You got me. I should have tried to click in. I thought about clicking in. It wasn't going to work out with the people we had over. It just wasn't happening. All right. We had already watched some sports. They weren't going to tolerate any more sports. Maybe I should have went downstairs and watched a little bit of the All-Star game. You got me dead to rights on this. However, I do think there is a little bit of a difference where Donovan Mitchell is universally liked in this city, trusted in this city as the leader of this franchise. The other guy, we have knockdown dragouts every single day, whether it be in a bar or on the radio or at work or in church or in school. We have fights about the guy every single day, or whether or not he's supposed to be the franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. You're telling me that's not more important than the NBA All-Star Game? I think it's a little bit more important. You're right. You guys got me on that, but there is a difference.
For me, it was just flag football's not. It's such a remote connection to that stuff we actually watch on Sundays. That's why I think you saw the ratings were abysmal this year for flag football. So it wasn't just that, the people here weren't watching. The people everywhere weren't really watching it. And so that was, I'd be honest. That's been the NBA the last however many years. The NBA All-Star Weekend has been atrocious. I didn't jump on you for not caring about it. I think a lot of people, like Joe Vardon said, his buddies were not watching. And yet when you see, that guys actually tried, which I know it's like, oh, they get paid all these millions and they actually tried. That's the bar. Well, unfortunately it is, because these guys, they don't really care. They don't really care. You got to build on it. I don't know what the NFL is going to do. Like, we spend so much time trying to figure out the NBA. I think we don't even spend time trying to figure out football because it's just dead. I think people realize the NFL is totally dead and their All-Star Weekend. I told
you it would make that alive, though. If you wanted to do a lottery, which more on a type of draft coming up here in a little bit. However, they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. Talking about your Cleveland Browns, you should still keep an open mind about this hire. Let me tell you why, coming up in 5 minutes on The Fan.
Anthony Lima for...
Become a True Rewards member today and save on so much more. True North Convenience Stores. Fast, friendly, clean.
Listen to 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn app.
So Mike Rutenberg,
redo it.
Mike Rutenberg is the new defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go from defending Daryl to going after Daryl. Daryl doesn't seem to be very thrilled, at least by what I saw on the Twitter. We'll find out later tonight, 7 to 9 p.m., the off-season special. I'm sure they're going to be talking about it with Jake Volnick, Daryl Ryder, and Lance Reisland. Coach is going to be on. I think they're in studio, if I'm not mistaken. Make sure you're listening tonight, 7 to 9 p.m.
Streaming live on YouTube.
Streaming live on YouTube as well, so make sure you're watching that and seeing it all. I'm sure Coach Lance might right some wrongs. Maybe Daryl will have changed his mind by then. I'm just interpreting it as Daryl doesn't think much of the hire. He seemed to be a Jason Tarver, Ephraim Banda guy, and since they're not hiring those guys, and guys, I actually understand. I rip Daryl a lot. This is the time where I actually understand where he's coming from. I disagree with him, but I understand where he's coming from for the simple fact of I think a lot of people are looking for somebody they trust within the organization. You trusted the defense. You trusted Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz, I mean, let's be honest, he's a fine football coach. He seems like a fine guy. He showed his ass on the way out. Let's call it what it is. If he would not have acted like that, maybe he'd still be here. Maybe he just doesn't want to be here. But he could have done it a different way.
I took it as he wanted nothing to do with being here anymore.
But if he would have just been like, hey, you know what? I'm leaving early for the day and just left, maybe anybody wouldn't have thought anything of it. Maybe he still would have been like, you know what? I'm not coming back. It's fine. It just didn't go over very well. And he made it so abundantly clear where it's like, you can't bring him back. You just can't do it. We're looking for somebody that we trust. And because it's another outsider, you don't necessarily trust him because let's be serious here. Like there have been some people have looked at this, and I've been very cautionary about this. Some people have said, well, gosh, you got Myles Garrett, you got Grant Delpy, you got Carson Schlesinger. I mean, you got these players here. You got Denzel Ward. I mean, there's too many to mention that you do have some seriously good football players. How could you screw it up? And I'm going, man, some of these guys were on Joe Woods' defense. Joe Woods screwed it up plenty. I mean, we've had talented football. If Freddie Kitchens was the head coach in 2019, that team, you see the talent that team had on it. They were 6-10. And Todd Monken will be the first person to tell you that they screwed up that town. So a bad coach can screw it up. Just because, though, I haven't heard of Mike Rutenberg before this or heard much of him doesn't mean he's going to be garbage. I had heard so many good things about Bubba Ventrone. Also that he was on his way to being a head coach in this league when the Browns hired him. And how did the last 2 years go? And I think he was throwing his players under the bus at the end. So we've had guys who have come with tremendous pedigrees in the past that ended up being terrible for us. Terrible. So I'll keep an open mind. I'll be arm's length like I am just about with everybody. So just because I haven't heard of the guy and because it is the Browns, yes, those are two strikes. Just because I haven't heard of the guy and the Browns' history says that they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt doesn't mean that I should just say that this thing's going to be an absolute, total 100% disaster. Even though saying those two things would say, Kenny, you should be saying that. I'm still going to try to keep an open mind to this fella. Because I don't know much about him, that doesn't mean I automatically dislike him.
One, you're not going to know a lot about any of this staff right now. They have assembled a bunch of first-timers, first-time head coach, first-time OC, first-time DC, first-time special teams coach. And, yes, you can find clips online, all these guys showing a lot of energy, and that's why you can find other guys sharing in their excitement of these guys. So people are proud of them that they were able to get these opportunities. But so the question will be for Todd Monken and this organization, how much can they mitigate the first-time mistakes? We always hear about that. Well, they're going to make rookie mistakes. Okay, well, we were in a situation where we were going to hire a first-time head coach no matter what we did, right? I mean, whether it was going to be this guy, whether it was going to be Udinsky, whether it was going to be Shieldhouse, you were going to deal with a rookie head coach no matter what. The important thing that we had all said is, but you've got to surround the first-time head coach with a bunch of veteran coordinators. Well, they didn't do that. They went with the veteran coach that had never been a head coach, but had been around the league and for a long time, and obviously won Both levels, he's won a lot, including national championships in college. But they did not assemble a big-time staff of veteran coordinators. And so we'll see if they'll pay the price for that, or will it be what you would rationalize the opposite to be, which is kind of a new look at everything. So, guys that have never had the opportunity but maybe had been champing at the bit.
There's going to be risk in everything. I mean, I have liked Jason Tarver for a long time. We've mentioned it. I have a lot of respect for him. There will be, I remember I mentioned if you wanted to continue to have a little bit more of the same, Jason Tarver's been a defensive coordinator before. Mm-hmm. Immediately Raiders fans saw it and started ripping me in the mentions, going, he was terrible with us, terrible in Oakland. And I'm thinking, well, you probably had some really bad players there in Oakland, so I can make anything palatable that I want to, if I really want to. There's just a few things that work against him here. It is the Browns. He is a name that we haven't noticed. And one of the reasons you don't hire him, you have to hire the guy because you think he's going to do a good job. I know we're guarding against things. Maybe he's a little bit more open-minded to things than some of the other guys would be, some of the older guys, some of the guys who have done it before, because I don't want to just hire the guy, because my first thought was, you take a guy who's never been a defensive coordinator before, and he could come in and, maybe you can get away with a few mistakes because you have Myles Garrett, because you have Denzel Ward, but I still don't want to have to judge by getting away with mistakes because we have great players. That shouldn't be a reason I go with it. I should look at him going, it's a fresh idea. It's a fresh way to run a defense. It's a fresh way to make some stops and maybe have some teams guessing with the same players what they could try to take advantage of that they know they've been able to take advantage of in the past. Because there have been a few things that have definitely cost us. I'm going to want to know the differences here with this defense, with this guy. Your run defense, when you lost Malik Collins, you lost a lot. Well, you're going into year 2 now with Mason Graham. So we're going to get nitty-gritty here for a second. I'm not trying to hit any music or anything, but let's just call it what it is. Defensive linemen get better with age. Mason Graham's going into year 2. He should be better. You lost Malik Collins. You lost a lot there. I think that's example number 1. Example number 2, you have been susceptible to misdirection in the past. Now, those are Jim Schwartz things. All in all, Jim Schwartz was a very talented defensive coordinator. I want to take nothing away. I hate that when guys aren't there anymore, they decide to talk trash about the guy. I'm not going to talk trash about him out the door. I wish he would have done it a different way. He did it the way he did it. It still doesn't take away from him being a good football coach. But those two things are things that we pay attention to. Now, are you able to, with a fresh idea, with Mike Rutenberg, are you able to hide those disabilities, or are you able to take away those as disabilities for your defense? Because maybe you're going to have better gap integrity with your defensive line with Mike Rutenberg. Maybe you're not shooting as many gaps, but there's always going to be a cost to that. What's going to be the cost of that? I'm not sure, because it was an aggressive attacking defense. But both of those things, when you're so aggressive and you're so attacking, you will lose gap integrity most of the time, because guys will run by you. And the other thing is, if you're so attacking and you're so aggressive, we saw this in the playoffs in 2023, you're going to be susceptible to misdirection because you're going to be running to the wrong spot faster than anybody else out there. So you got those things that are working against you there.
Yeah, what was interesting when I watched the playoffs is how many teams, and this wasn't just the Super Bowl, but I thought things had kind of changed a little bit in the NFL where the ability of teams without having to blitz would get to the quarterback. Just bringing 4, leaving 7 back, and then saying good luck. Because if our 4 can beat your offensive line and your chip attempts, like, you got no shot. And that's what happened with Drake May and New England. Like, and this Josh McDaniels, pretty savvy offensive coordinator who's been in some of the biggest games of the last 20 years as an OC, he had no answers for being able to neutralize that Seattle
Well, if they get home
rush.
with 4, you're not going to have a lot of answers there.
There just aren't.
Yeah.
And so the only thing I always wondered about Schwartz is almost why so many blitzes. Like, you saw Seattle still came with blitzes, and they did it coming from every little angle, but they also had guys that could do it. Holy cow, guys in the secondary that could navigate. What was it, Witherspoon was able to do that and get home on a couple of occasions. It's like, good luck. Second-year quarterback trying to diagnose that stuff at the line. Like, you already have your hands tied behind your back given your offensive line struggles, and now you're doing this. But Schwartz, I always did wonder a little bit if he was a little too aggressive, because I was like, man, you got Myles Garrett who can single-handedly get there. And then, oh, by the way, Malik Collins. And again, their defense was amazing this year, so it's hard to second guess. But in some of the games that we lost where teams did gash us or make big plays, like even Carson Wentz on a final drive, a little too greedy. Like, Carson Wentz knows where blitzes are coming from. What Carson Wentz can't do is if 4 can get to you, now he's got no answers because you've got all the different all the different areas on the field protected.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. One thing that I would probably take away from that is I wonder, and I'd have to see and go back, they were very aggressive against New England. Remember, they had a good game defensively against New England. Their offense couldn't do anything. And then you had a quarterback who was afraid literally to throw the football. You remember the safety and all the other things. They had a good game defensively in getting after Drake May in that game against New England. For their defense, what type of ideas are going to be brought to this that are going to be fresh, exciting to them, and where can you pull away while still being an aggressive defense is going to be one of the issues there. I think, though, that because there's names that we don't recognize, a lot of fans feel, because they're coming off of 8-26 over the last 2 years, that this is going to be a one-and-done group. Do you believe that this is going to be one and done, or do you think that they have a chance? 216-474-0092. I'm going to ask Tone that. I want to ask all you guys that in 5 minutes on The Fan.
postponed because of poor weather conditions. Don't miss tonight's episode of 92.3 The Fan's off-season special. Get the latest on the Browns this evening from 7 to 9. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Whenever you need to talk about the Browns, we got you covered. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
I know we got a Connie. I cannot believe the bosses of B find it so completely ridiculous of what I said that I agree with Daryl about President Obama. Fish in a barrel. How is that not possible? Do the Connie.
I mean, I was told.
I love how you got me saying Connie now, too.
So our boss wants us to stick to politics. Interesting. 92.3 The Fan looking for a winner. Enter the code word truck, T-R-U-C-K at 923thefan.com before 10 a.m. Your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Cleveland Auto Show February 20th through March 1st at the IX Center. See the hottest new cars, trucks, and SUVs. Parking is always free. Buy tickets at clevelandautoshow.com.
A wild-ass way to stop tanking coming up in just over 20 minutes. Yeah, just let me get this off my chest again. Daryl had said yesterday, apparently, I didn't hear it. Apparently, Daryl had said that one of the reasons he thinks that they played harder in the All-Star game was because President Obama was sitting courtside. I said, how hard is that to figure out? They've openly admitted that they try harder and try to put on a better show when they know certain people are sitting courtside. They've already said it. Shaquille O'Neal, Hall of Famer, has already admitted it. Why is it so crazy to think they wouldn't try harder if President Obama was sitting courtside? Why is that? It's not maybe the reason, but it has to be one of the factors. You think I'm going to come in here and hand in a half-assed effort, half asleep, half still drunk on a Monday morning or something like that if President Obama was sitting in on the studio? No. I wouldn't do that for any president. And probably I'd have to think about the foreign leaders of which ones, if he had in there, I'd probably be showing up and playing and trying to do well. I mean, that's a big damn deal. What?
Yeah. I rank the foreign leaders that you would give your best performances for.
Number 1, Mark Carney. Number 2,
the Kent State football coach?
Yeah, I was going to say.
You know what? I don't know the other 2 right off the top of my head because I can't. I'm trying to think of who's the prime minister of the UK.
I thought you were going to go
Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
After some of the comments from some of the NBA players this weekend, I thought you were going to say Netanyahu.
Number 3. Who's the prime minister of Germany? I got to ask my 6-year-old. He knows all these things.
Don't confuse him with our new defensive coordinator.
Boris Yeltsin?
Because I had some Germans texting us about our...
Rutenberg?
Yes, about our pronunciation.
I didn't know.
Rutenberg.
My family tree is just a long stick. It's Ireland and England. That's it. I got no German in
New York.
They founded Hempstead, New York. You can look it up. John Carman. That's my great, 14 times over grandfather. And now look what his grandson's doing many times over. Being made fun of for saying that, yeah, guys would play harder if President Obama was sitting courtside. That's not a hard thing to do. Okay, back to the nature at hand here. Do you think it's closer to one and done, or do they have a chance to be here any modicum of time for the Cleveland Browns?
I do
for this
wonder,
coaching staff.
I wonder how the fans have kind of evolved. Because eventually, as a fan of a team, like I saw it with Monken. When they hired Monken, or it started to trickle out, people were like, what? What happened to the new up-and-coming thing? What happened to the guy that could be the coach for the next 20 years? What happened to all of that? Now it's just Todd Monken. But then they saw him talk. Then they heard more and more people from college and the NFL talk about him. And so they started to, get their hopes up, and it became a little more favorable. So I wondered where fans were just in general with the entire staff now. Because you were told at the beginning of all of this, from the owner himself, Jimmy Haslam, how crucial it was going to be in all their planning to make sure to preserve the defensive coordinator and that defense, keeping Jim Schwartz. And when that became untenable, I did see a lot of people going, we're not even getting Jim Schwartz out of this. Like, we're getting Todd Monken as the head coach, someone they didn't really want, and now we're not even keeping Schwartz. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder over time when you start to see more and more info on this guy and the positive things people are saying about him, I do think people will come around, and in the end, you're going to give him a fair shake, because what are you going to do? What are you going to go into the season saying, all our first-year coordinators are just going to be terrible? Like, who goes into a season like that anyway? Even me, as cynical as I am, I don't do that. I'm giving him a chance.
What throws me off is I'm going to surprise you with my answer. What do you think my answer is going to be? Well, I just said I was going to surprise you, so you know my answer is going to be. I have to admit, I think it's closer to one and done, but nothing. I don't think it's anything of what these guys are going to do. I think that Todd Monken's going to be organized. I think that he's going to have the best game plan possible with his coaches, and he's going to do his damnedest to put these guys in charge, put these guys in a position to win these football games. Most importantly, though, is the organization when it comes to a head coach of an NFL franchise. I think he's going to be organized and have everything put together. Why I think it's closer to one and done is because, again, if you don't have much faith in the offense to go out there, then you're probably going to find yourself in a lot of games where, again, the defense has to show up and win. And the only thing that I can use as any sort of a hold a second is the strength of schedule. Strength of schedule isn't good. But the thing is they're circling you on all their schedules as a team that they're going to beat. So I have to mix that in. And why I'm worried why I think it's closer to one and done than it is a long-term solution. What does it feel like to the fan base about where the general manager is going to be at the end of this coming year? Do the majority of Browns fans feel that this could be the last year for Andrew Berry? Not should. I think that plays into it. But do the majority of Browns fans feel that this is going to be the last year for Andrew Berry?
Well, I wondered if they thought it was going to be a vote of confidence that he stayed, Stefanski's out. He had the good rookie class last year, and he was in charge he was the search committee.
Because my issue was when Jimmy Haslam spoke about a month ago, you're only able to use the last draft class as a reason to hold on to Andrew Berry. So it forces me to start to wonder whether or not you're doing it on a year-to-year basis. You can't do that with a general manager. He's supposed to secure your future, and he's supposed to be thinking 3 steps ahead. Well, this whole thing could be starting over here, guys. Like, they could definitely take a lot. They could have another great draft class, 2 in a row, and still be a 7-win football team this year, guys. They could still do it. And then if they're a 7-win football team, are you letting him go? You better have all the accolades that you possibly can, because you're probably going to let him go. And if you're going to let him go, then what are you going to do with your coaching staff and your head coach? Is it becoming the Todd Monken is 61 years old and now he's picking the general manager? Like, there's a lot of things I want to be in lockstep here.
No, if it goes,
and that's why I'm thinking it's leaning more towards one and done.
Look, yeah, I think most people can, and this is not the way I want to go into the season thinking. But yeah, I think to me, it's not that big of a leap to assume that if it's a disastrous season, if they're no step further to finding their quarterback other than it's got to be the draft next year, if Shador is terrible or Watson or any combination of that is terrible, then, and the record's like 4-13, I could see a house cleaning, yes. I could see a total reboot next year.
But I don't even see it being I don't think a 7-win season is a disastrous season.
No, 7 isn't.
That's not disastrous. But I think even if they won 7 games this next year, Andrew Berry could end up having his job on the line. And that would startle me, because if you're keeping him this year, and what's the difference between this year and next year? Well, if it's just one draft, then you're just going by the next draft. So if you win 7 games, you could still be a team that has, because you have so many needs you have offensively here. I can't see how you're going to get way over 500. I can't see how you're going to be a 10-win football team and make the playoffs here, because you have so many glaring needs on offense, and we don't know who the quarterback is. I mean, for the love of God, anytime you mention Malik Willis, we'll get loaded up with people who want to take him, people who think he's a waste of time. Obviously, the Shador Sanders conversation is a day-in, day-out fight with everybody. And now you add in Deshaun Watson to that. I mean, good God, we're talking about a team that doesn't know who their quarterback is exactly going to be, and they're going to approach the playoffs right now. Has it happened before? Yeah, once in the last 26 years. So that's not a guarantee for you. That can't be something that you think is going to be the right way. Like the time they made it before, that was a number 1 overall pick making it. He should make the playoffs. Joe Flacco wasn't supposed to. Well, as of right now, where I have 3 different QBs that are possibilities, one who's not even with the organization right now, but the possibility of 3 different QBs being my starter, how can I say that this is closer to a long-term solution than it is to one and done? It's just not honest. I hope it's long-term. I hope that they can do things, but I hope a lot of things for the Cleveland Browns. If you want me to be brutally honest, I'm as brutally honest as it can be right now. While I hope that they're able to do this, I just don't know if I see it. Because now you're starting the clock in the back of my head of what you're going to do with your general manager. And again, I bring up the quarterback situation. If we knew who the QB was going to be, dead on. We all have our opinions on who it should be. If I knew who it was going to be, I'd have a clearer picture. You know, when they were coming back out of 2021 to 2022 with what the question was at QB, whether it was going to be Deshaun Watson, there was questions on his years or his games that he was going to actually be eligible. I'm in the same spot. When it came to 2020 to 2021, it's like, all right, let's get the nose up on this thing, hopefully. Or I should say 2019 to 2020, let's get the nose up on this. Kevin Stefanski should be more organized. He should be better with Baker Mayfield. There was quarterbacks there. You can be a hardcore Shedeur, Deshaun, or I guess Malik Willis fan, but I think the general Browns public is like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's perfectly fine. But if you don't know, that means that, yeah, they're probably closer to being one and done than they are to being a long-term solution, Tone.
Yeah, I guess it just depends, obviously, on what kind of a draft class they put together. Like, if it's just Myles Garrett wrecking games on their way to winning 6 or 7, then you've really not advanced the ball.
No, you haven't.
Any further.
No, you haven't.
That's the one hesitancy I saw when people were like at the end of the year and we were having the culture debate about whether or not, they're building something by winning the last 2 games. I'm like, I don't know. This just seems like Myles Garrett's dominating, and had they had even an average pass rusher in his place, we just lose the last 2 games.
Well, the only argument I ever made towards that, and people took it wrong. I never said it would carry over. I just think Shedeur was trying to highlight of how good the culture really is compared to what people think a usual 3-win to now 5-win football team would be, which is perfectly fair if they want to think that. And I think it's fair of Shedeur to defend the type of culture. But I don't believe in carrying over because now we have a new head coach. What's the culture going to be? We have a new defensive coordinator. What's the culture going to be? Are we celebrating after every play? Are we being brash and braggadocious? I don't know. I don't know what Mike Rutenberg celebrates or what he wants to do in terms of this football team. He might be a speak softly and carry a big stick type of guy. He's never been the defensive caller before. So there's so many things that I don't know, and because I don't know them, my tendency is to go with history. Like when we do teams or when we do picks, it's like, well, if you don't know, then you try to go with the better quarterback, who you think is the better quarterback, and you see where it goes. It's the same here. If I'm not sure how this is going to go, then I tend to go by your history. Your history is a poor one. So yes, it would only serve that, yeah, this leans more towards one and done than it would like they have a chance. I don't want to fire him. I'm not already talking about firing him. I'm just seeing what the fans are putting out there and being honest.
I do find that very interesting. Like if the average person goes to work today that's been listening this morning and says, man, did you hear 92.3 The Fan this morning? Ken, of all people, said the Browns are closer to one and done with their brand new head coach and this staff they've assembled. I think that would get people kind of concerned. This is supposed to be the time of optimism. This is supposed to be, hey, Browns offseason. That's when we get excited. That's when people rifle off those Reddit threads of, hey, I actually think the Browns can make the playoffs next year.
216-474-0092. I have one more thing to say about that. And then, you want to stop tanking? Here's one crazy-ass way. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima on The Fan. Northeast Ohio.
most of the league probably didn't notice was that Jared Allen had been a reason for the team playing so well prior to the trade. So we should be fair to that. But obviously, in the 3 games that James has played, that pick and roll is nasty, and they had like 1 practice. So lots of reason for optimism, and Mobley is ready to come back.
That's Joe Vartan from The Athletic at 8 o'clock earlier this morning. If you missed a minute in the show, use the rewind feature on the free Odyssey app powered by Integrated Restoration, your local experts in water, fire, and storm disaster restoration. Let me say this before we move on into that issue, is that you said you think you'd have people surprised if they drove in today and they were hearing me saying, well, we're closer to one and done. I can only go by history. I don't want him to be closer to one and done. I want to give I'm giving Mike Rutenberg a chance here. Just because I haven't heard much about him doesn't mean that I think he's going to be garbage. I don't like that we do that. I don't like that fans do it. I don't like that I've done it in the past. Doesn't matter. I want to learn from previous mistakes. Like I use that reasoning when it came to Carson Swessinger. Just because I might have watched UCLA playing football games and I didn't notice Carson Swessinger didn't mean that Carson Swessinger was going to be a bad player. And I said that the night they drafted him, and I'm glad, obviously, he's turned out to be so far so great, the defensive rookie of the year for this football team and for the NFL. So I don't know how great Mike Rutenberg's going to be. Maybe he ends up being the next Buddy Ryan for all we know. But just because I haven't heard very much of him or even know how to pronounce his name right off the top of my head doesn't mean that he's going to be garbage. So I'll keep an open mind. I'm rooting for it to go one way, a positive way. I just don't know because we keep having to have bickering arguments about who the quarterback should be and will be. How far can they really go? That's my issue. And will they go far enough to satisfy everybody involved, or will we just be talking about another mind-numbing house cleaning? And I hope that this last example of it was every example why we are telling you the absolute truth. And we say, no, we don't like going through coaching searches. We actually hate it. 216-474-0092. So this Cavs segment brought to you by the fine folks at Surfside Hard Iced Tea, who remind you to please enjoy responsibly. You have a wild idea to fix tanking. Floor is yours. Go right on ahead, Tone.
Well, yeah, it's the easiest, most guaranteed solution of the hundreds that I felt like I've heard over the last month. Because for those that don't know or don't pay attention to the NBA, whatever, or the people that do and know that it's a crisis that a third of the league is trying to lose games. And the reason they are is we're looking at another historic draft class, and not in the way that we talk like, oh, next year is going to be a big quarterback class. No, we know in the NBA, when it comes to the guys that are coming out, it is a historic class. It's going to be huge, the guys that are available. And because of that, it serves teams, it serves them to try to do everything they can to maximize their spot in the lotto. And, they flatten the odds, which has actually had an unintended consequence, which is even more teams are tanking now than they used to. Because they've done everything they can not to guarantee a top spot for really bad teams, but all that's invited is other teams closer to the play-in to say, hey, do we even really want to try for the play-in, or would we rather try for one guy on a team that can change everything? And, of course, the answer is clear. Like, all these front offices are all operating in the same way now. Like, yeah, it's better to lose games in the interim and get that player and change the course of our entire team, the trajectory of our entire team. Well, the solution is obvious. If you're really that dead set on fixing that problem, and that is just ending the draft as we know it, allowing guys to come out of college and be free agents, and capping, a rookie pool of money for every team, and also have it work concurrently with their cap space in general in the NBA, so that the thought that, they're just all going to go to the Lakers or the Knicks. Well, no, they wouldn't, because, A, those teams would be hamstrung because of the existing players they have. And newsflash, as we're finding out in the NIL era, players will go anywhere as long as they're being offered the most money or the best opportunity. We've seen that. Players will go to BYU. The best players, I'm going to repeat, will go to BYU. Okay, where's BYU? Does anybody know?
Utah's a very beautiful state.
But isn't that considered a basketball outpost? And yet they're willing to go there.
Well, your buddy went to Utah State and doesn't send us any gear, but that's okay.
We're still waiting.
Even though Perfect Strangers send us gear.
The Perfect TV show?
Strangers.
No, not Balky Bartakamos.
No.
Don't be ridiculous.
All right, I got questions before I sign off one way or the other about this. What about the players? Okay, you say that L.A. and New York can't sign them all.
No, nor would they want to, by the way. You're not going to win. If you have the youngest players in the league every year, you're never going to win.
So L.A. and New York can't sign them all. That's definitely true. What about players what about the best players? What if they just refuse and go back to school? Because we have to have some regular.
Long?
I don't know. We have to. It seems that you can just find more eligibility wherever you're looking for. I mean, good God, they're giving Trinidad Chambliss another year, aren't they not?
Yeah, but the contracts in the NBA for rookies, especially if you open to a bidding process, it's going to be way more than they're getting in college.
Understood.
Like the priciest players is, what is it, AJ DeBonza or whatever at BYU, and he's estimated to be getting $4.8 million.
Okay,
it's way more on a rookie contract.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. But if they think that, let's use New Orleans, okay? The pro basketball outpost, where it seems that everybody, the second they get drafted there, wants the hell out. Say New Orleans consistently, without trying to tank, has the number one pick, and you have the best player in college basketball for the next 2 years, and New Orleans has the number one slot first, right of first refusal if there's no draft. I don't know how it would work. Wouldn't they just go back to college, even with the $4 million? It's like, I can make $4 million here and continue to play, but
you're saying they would.
I'm wondering because guys are going back.
I think the number one player this year made like 14 million. It's in that. Wemby made 13, I think, his first year. So you're saying they'd pass up 13 to go back, and then.
I'm not, but there's I didn't think Dante Moore would go back because you're looking at about $55 million guaranteed.
But the whole point is they're free agents. They can sign anywhere they want. So they would just not go to New Orleans. If the Pelicans cannot recruit a player out of college, they can't offer them, even if they're offering more money, instant playing time. We're going to build around you. We're going to make this the identity, kind of like the Cavs did with LeBron. We're going to do that for you. If a player doesn't want that, they can go elsewhere. They can. I mean, that's the whole point of this. And then, by the way, the NBA would probably love that. The NBA, and I don't even know if the Pelicans are going to have a team in 2 years, if they're going to relocate, but it's basically putting pressure on the organizations to be good. And then, oh, by the way, we're done with tanking. I mean, this solves tanking. Nobody would be tanking ever again. And season ticket holders would love that, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they love that in every city in the country?
That's a hell of a point. I mean, I'm asking questions because I'm still not clear. Up until now, I think you've made it pretty crystal clear. What are the pitfalls that could come of this?
Well, the pitfalls are what everyone says is the players are all going to want to go to L.A. and New York.
But you just said it. If you have a hard cap, which they do now because of the second apron, you can't sign them all.
Yes. So, like, would Wemby, would teams, 2 years in advance, the New Yorks of the world and L.A., would they end up with a Wemby? Yeah. He probably doesn't go to San Antonio. But then they don't get the next number one overall pick because who the hell would want to go? Not every player is going to want to go somewhere where they're not going to get the ball. This could mess with their next contract down the road. You know how all these guys think.
Well, I think
it would disperse the talent just fine.
I think damn it, you make a hell of a point here. What are you, I can't
just money-wise, I'm looking real quick. So this last year,
what did Cooper make?
This is real GM. This is just the salary scale. It's $11.5 million for the first pick, but up to 120%. So they could go 20% over that, right? Which is what Wemby did. That's why he got up to 13 because I think his was 10. And then they have, and what Lima's bringing up with the guys not wanting to be on the same teams, the difference in the fourth-year option or the qualifying offer. Qualifying offer is 40% of what the fourth-year option would be, which is it jumps up to like $16 million the fourth year, or 40+% more of that. So you're talking to like $28 million, $27 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're all teaming up on one team, they're all rookies. That fourth year, if you're not the star guy, are you getting the qualifying offer?
Well, that's happening with Oklahoma City. They've drafted so incredibly well that it's just a foregone conclusion they're not going to keep everybody.
So now are you getting, in your fourth year, are you getting a new contract that starts at $28 million or a contract that ends at $14 million?
Well, I would want one that starts at $28 million.
And so that's, I do see where Lima is processing the weeding out the problem, but I still think these guys would figure ways out. And I know the marketing's not what it used to be, and the money on that you're making in the branding world and things like that is not the same as it was maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
With the shoe deals and all that, but they're still getting all of that extra money. And do you get that in New York or LA as opposed to being in Milwaukee?
I would want it like this. I would think more Cignetti over it. Now, people don't realize that, and I've told you about this, Curt Cignetti went from like 32 transfers to 22 transfers to now 17. Like, he is trying to build his class. If we're not going to have a draft, I really don't want kids. I want grown men.
Right.
Like LeBron, his body changed significantly by the time he was in year 7 from when he was in year 1. Now, I know he started out not as a college kid, technically a high school kid, but there's clearly a difference there. So if I'm LA, like, if I think about it, the more it becomes maybe more like the Major League Baseball, where I don't want your early years. Like, the Fab Five might have existed in the NCAA. It ain't going to exist here in the NBA. These are grown men that you're playing against. And that's why, like, some of the, like, you've heard Rick Pitino. Like, you're welcoming in some of the foreign-born players now in NCAA basketball, which these are older guys. These are grown men here that you're starting for your basketball team. Now, if I can start grown men and there's no draft, well, if I'm the Lakers or I'm the Knicks or if I'm anybody that has any money whatsoever, I'll try to entice you as a free agent later on. You can go start your career somewhere else. I ain't going to do that. That is not going to.
You're going to, in all of sports, in all positions, where do you want the younger, like a running back? You want a young running back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want the older guy, but there's not a lot of places in all of sports that you want a ton of young guys. It's great for regular season stuff, but by the time if you're really trying to make runs at things, you don't see a roster full of 22, 23, 24-year-olds in any sport that go very far into the playoffs with any amount of sustained success.
I think the biggest con of all this, we're talking pros and cons, is you brought up the Pelicans for a reason, because
they've been bad.
Who would want to go there? Who would want to go there? The place is empty. Yeah. They don't win even when they do get the
seems.
Yeah, they don't even get. They don't win when they get the really good number 1 overall pick like Zion. Like, they don't even win with him. So, yeah, I mean, it still is going to put pressure on these organizations to, instead of tanking to try to get the best pick, now you're trying to become the best you to try to get the number 1 or the number 2 or the number 3, because it's not just about the number 1 pick. It's still not a science in the NBA, as much as like Cooper Flagg and Wemby are obvious number 1s. Mm-hmm. Still, the best player in a lot of these classes did not go number 1 overall. So there's still going to be scouting involved, and how you want to, like we always talk about how the Guardians, how do they make up for their lack of payroll? Well, significant investment in, Latin America. So that's where they choose to like throw a lot of their money. Now, the problem is the teams with a lot of money are now doing that as well. So you've lost your edge, so to speak. But in the NBA, like you gotta pick which lane you think your team belongs in the most. And, maybe the Lakers, they decide, well, we still want to be a free agency destination or whatever when it comes to guys that have actually proven themselves in the NBA, as opposed to guys that have proven nothing in the NBA. So I'm not even buying that these sexy markets are going to get the best players out of the draft every year. I'm not buying it.
You make a great point. Now, I think about it a couple ways. Major League Baseball, you mentioned Major League Baseball. They still have a draft. But, you run into the problem with Paul Skeens. There's nobody who thinks that Paul Skeens is going to finish his career with the he might be done with the Pittsburgh Pirates by this summer. And that would be, in his 3rd season, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah. I mean, he might be done with they were talking about it last year. Why wouldn't they talk about it this year? So nobody thinks Paul Skeens is going to get to the end of it. Well, would you have rather had a Paul Skeens and lost than never had him whatsoever? Because I think if you're given the choice, and other teams, I think there's always going to be 2 teams that have money. If you're given a choice, are you ever going to think that you're part of it? Because, yeah, you have to, if you're Major League Baseball, if you're a Guardians team, they have bet on young players who don't cost a lot of money, taking advantage of that, dropping in a couple of guys that are veterans, good in the locker room veterans, not going to blow your face off with how great their statistics are. They've made a couple of splashy investments that haven't worked out, and I think that they've learned from that, even to much our chagrin. So you have these guys. Would you see the same thing in the NBA, even though there'd be no draft? Like, say the Cavaliers did not. The Cavaliers, I don't think, would be part of this because you have Dan Gilbert, and he's willing to spend on anything. So I think he makes things different. But if you were a situation, I don't know, Memphis, are they passionate about their basketball? They seem that they're pretty passionate in the city of Memphis about basketball. No, yes?
Yeah, I mean,
probably more so for the Tigers.
I do. It's a lower level Oklahoma City.
Okay. So
but yeah, kind of that same deal.
I use Memphis as an example. If you go to Memphis or New Orleans, are you trying to just avoid that by any cost? Because then what's my buy-in? What's my point of being a fan? If I'm just going to get a bunch of 22-year-olds avoiding my city by any means necessary, what's my buy-in as a fan?
But that's for the best player. Would the third or fourth best player, if Memphis came a knocking and said, we're going to pay way more money than the other teams because they're all invested in the Wembys of the world.
That's a good point.
And the Cooper Flat. That's what I'm saying. If they can cultivate a relationship with these guys, and of course they're going to be going through organizational, turnover as well. When they have bad seasons, they're going to get rid of the bad and try to bring in the new. These guys ultimately still want to. Yeah, do they want to make the most amount of money and be on great teams? Yes, but it's going to be an impossibility. It's not going to work.
But Memphis has at least shown, compared to New Orleans, Memphis has shown that they can make runs in the playoffs.
Zion?
They went deep.
Let me think about this. Is Zion still the best player in his draft class? Morant, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero.
I have to look at the whole.
I mean, if he's still the best one in the draft class, it's well, you can give me the third or fourth. But
he's not.
No. I mean, you could look at the draft class, but if you're consistently
potential with all those guys,
if you're consistently giving me the third and fourth guy, it's you take your pick. You could possibly find that guy being the third or fourth best guy, might be the best guy by the time we're in year 3 or year 4. Okay, that's all well and good, but most of the time teams tank for a reason because the number one guy is the number one guy. 216-474-0092. Well, can we do away with the NBA draft? Is that something we could really do?
It's drastic, but if people really think that tanking is this major, major issue, which, I don't know, once the playoffs start, is it going to be the major issue anymore?
No.
Are people still going to be talking about it? Because the playoffs are going to be amazing this year. They're going to be amazing in both conferences. It's 2.5 months of great, amazing basketball where everybody tries really, really hard. Are we just getting worked up over something now? Because it does suck. We have what could be a transcendent rookie class. I don't know. But I will tell you, if you do think it's that big of a deal, I've offered a perfect solution, I think, for it.
216-474-0092. Ken Carman, Tone Master General on the Fan.
Anthony Lima.
I highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Transform your business today. Dial 877-WEB-NOW1 for a free digital consultation with AmericanEagle.com.
Headline sports news every 20 minutes from the University Hospital's sports desk. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
All right, I'm trying to think of something different here before we get to whether or not you'd welcome you-know-who back. What if... I'm trying to think of where the money would go. What if owners, say you were eligible, say your team was 24 and whatever. You weren't the worst team, but you weren't the best team, obviously, and you were a quote-unquote lottery team. What if you could bid for the number 1 overall pick?
And that pick has to go to the highest bidder?
I'm trying to put something on, yes, that maybe it's a blind bidding. You put in your best submitted for so say like who's going to be the number 1 pick this year? Say Victor Wembanyama.
I would have said Darren Peterson if he'd actually play in games.
Okay, so
he seems to barely want to play right now.
I'm thinking right off the top of my head here. So I wrote this down. I'm just trying to I got to figure out where the money goes.
Can I adjust it?
Yes.
Can you bid on lotto balls? Still have it be a lotto system, but you
buy
more.
The lotto balls?
Yeah, you can buy more. So you can still try to win this year, and then if you're willing to pony up the money,
because it's like
it's a good draft.
But are you buying those balls?
I want 25 balls in the hopper.
If
everybody's buying 25 balls,
$1 million a ball,
no,
$25 million.
What you bid on the balls is what you would do. But where does that money come from? Is it coming from a capped situation?
I think it comes from your cap situation.
So this offseason, I have $17 million of cap space. I'm going to allocate 8 of that towards a player, and the other 9 I'm throwing completely in the lotto.
Trying to completely at the lotto. Do you get the money now? Depending on what you give, do you get that taken away from you? I'm just trying to think of crazy ways to it because I'm not fighting you on eliminating the draft. I think it's a bold thing that I think a lot of people would be naturally afraid of. Because I think of college sports when I think about eliminating the draft. Like there are so many things that you and I talked about before NIL, before paying players that we were like, hey, like you guys got to consider this. Mm-hmm. And we would say that and people would scream at us about not wanting a free market system and not wanting to pay the players. We're like, no, you do have to consider all these things. Like I would like them to get their money too. They are adults in America. And we do know that they make the money, but there are ramifications to this. We are seeing the ramifications to that, things that you and I have talked about before. All right, what are the ramifications of getting rid of an NBA draft? What are the ramifications? NFL, I don't think you need to. Baseball, maybe that's a conversation. NFL, I don't think you need to because there's so many players.
One thing they would say would be bad about it probably would be, depending on how you did it financially, is that middle class of the NBA. They would not want to pass this in a collective bargaining agreement because the rookies, their money would go up. And if their money goes up, where does it come from? Where does the available pool of money come from? Well, everybody else. And we know that the superstars are still going to make top value. Yeah. So who suffers? A lot of the guys who have already had their rookie deals and now they're in the middle. So they could stand to lose unless you figured out a way to cap that bidding system for the rookies.
I think it would be interesting to that level because I would think, well, okay, what would you do if you missed it? If you had to put in, because I think this is a way you kind of cap it as well. Because if you're a Dan Gilbert, you can go, well, if it's only going to cost me money on the player and I'm willing to pay for the player, if the player is that good, then I'm going to be willing to give up $25 million for the number 1 pick or $25 million. But if you say, hey, if you give up $25 million or you're putting in $25 million, you're losing the $25 million. You're getting $25 million worth no matter what. If somebody puts in $26 million, then they either get the number 1 pick or they get the most lotto balls and that's it. But you still lose that 25 or you still lose that 8. Then I think it kind of regulates it to going, okay, how much is the player really worth? How much is that number 1 pick worth? Because we've seen in different years, number 1 is not the same for all of them. It's not going to be the same for all of them. So that's the only possible suggestion that kind of keeps the draft that I would throw out there and that would keep the lottery. But that would be a bold thing. Can we get to the Varden real quick? Number one, let's get to Varden here, which makes the most sense for you-know-who.
There just aren't that many places that make sense, Ken, if he doesn't retire. So for what it's worth, our beat writer for the Lakers, Dan Wojcicki, he still thinks that LeBron's ultimately going to retire. But for those of us who are no longer sure, then you get into the business of where's he going to go? It's just between the opportunity and the comfort. There just aren't that many places that would make more sense than Cleveland.
So I would say this, and this is coming from me, which I know is funny. What you're going to have to listen to your body, because I don't want the ghost of LeBron back. It'd be nice to have LeBron back. I'm not going to sit there and say it wouldn't be nice to have LeBron back. I would want him back as long as he was a passenger. And I know that we see the coast to coast every now and then, and a couple of games that he's had where he's been off the charts. Those are fewer and fewer between. But is he able to be a passenger for this franchise where the only thing he's known, these are hard things to give up on. The only thing he's known is him being able to carry them out of the gutter. They're not in the gutter right now. They're far from the gutter. But every time he's been here, he's had to force them to do things to raise their profile. He wouldn't have to do that here. Is he willing to understand the reality?
I think he's already kind of demonstrated that this year. Think about it. He's been with the Lakers now for 8 years.
Which is incredible.
When he came into the Lakers, he was the number one guy. And he had to share the limelight a bit during the COVID championship with Anthony Davis. And then after that, now it's not his team at all. In fact, to the point where they've been leaking out so many things behind the scenes to where it's pretty clear that
they ain't going to be here next year.
It's not his team.
They're next year.
Yeah, so I think over the course of 8 years in L.A., he's gone from the guy that everything is built around to, on some nights, he's like their fourth leading scorer. So I think he's already demonstrated that he can do that and still play at a high level.
Even though he's been there 8 years, which is the longest he's been with any team at one sitting.
Consecutively, yeah.
I mean, his history here is different. Mm-hmm. And if things get a little bit rickety, would he be willing to fulfill his role? Because old habits, especially with older people, they die hard. He'll be 42. I think it's probably a foregone conclusion that he's coming back. I want to see how they make that work. Big thanks to Joe Varden for joining us today. He was outstanding. We'll go around the Eastern Conference tomorrow for Big Country, for Meredith, for John, for the Slippery Wizard, Anthony Lima, for Jeff, I'm Ken Carman. Have a wonderful day, my friends.
And making sure that you're not booing, but you clap.
Hey, sounds good.
Where's your entourage now?
Cool, I got on the last show.
Oh, boy.
This is an Odyssey Sports Minute.
Sponsored by Tex.